Today we are talking about Armies of
USA.
That was last time, Tyler.
No,
That was last time. We're talking about armies of Great Britain.
That episode.
we're up to Great Britain, mate.
You know that episode that you went in? All right, now we can actually continue on with the episode.
So you see what I said about the British forces being more of that nice, balanced overall piece. It's
It was
because
bullshit.
they steal things from everybody. Their units are balanced, but they take everyone else's.
Welcome to another episode of the HMG podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about all great things that are happening in the bolt action world. We are located in West Australia, and that's our main focus as we talk about local events, but we're absolutely not limited to that. I'm your host, Gorchin, and joining me today are my other co-hosts.
Hey, it's Jacob here.
And it's Daniel.
And today we're going to do another one of our faction reviews, and we're going to start with the armies of the UK, or is it Great Britain? It's Great Britain. Right. And just before we get into that bit, actually, we're going to do an event recap because the local scene's been pretty active. Some really cool things have happened recently. So Jacob and I were just at the local Skulls event. This is kind of an event that happens quarterly. The format was, I think it was 1,000 points, open theater selectors, just couldn't take armored platoons, which is interesting. Dice cap was limited to 12 points. And just for some context, the TOs that run Skulls, Dan usually is the front man, but wasn't there for this one. We have our pillar of the community back, Justin, from his long voyage overseas, back now on home soil. So he likes to run side missions. The mission we were running on this one was called Enigma tokens. So every game, there were 6 numbered objectives that were placed on the map. The placement was the same between rounds. The format, the layout was the same, but where each number was changed. The way that worked is each number was associated with a letter, and the players didn't know, only the TOs knew, and you had to try to spell the word Enigma over the course of 2 rounds. If you managed to do that, you would then get, you'd get the intelligence unit ability for the subsequent round, and only 1 round afterwards. So that meant you could pull 1 dice at any point you would normally pull a dice, but you can choose for it to be yours. You can do that once per turn. You can do it at the start of the turn. You can do it any other way through. Really powerful little ability, that one. So that was that one. Jacob, I was wondering maybe if you wanted to start off with the list that you took for the event.
Yeah, definitely. Just so you know, we'll chuck the actual players pack of this event in the description. That will fill you in on all the extra functions of what we played, but it was 3 rulebook missions that we had to play.
2 of them.
Yeah, this event, 2 of them. Sorry, yes, there was 1 custom mission in there as well. This event is a little bit different to most that we've had. Predominantly, we do the generic reinforced platoon as the standard, and we typically don't go to the theater selector when it comes to tournaments. This one had the option for anybody to really take what they could, which allowed Gorchin to take something a little bit unique. I went bare bones in the sense I'm pretty sure I took a generic platoon with nothing special. However, I didn't go for any vehicles. At 1,000 points, I thought that it was going to be a bit too much. And playing Germans, you really do have that flexibility that most of the infantry squads can have anti-tank capabilities anyway. I've been playing around with Germans for a couple of years, and typically I want to maximize the buzzsaw rule, which is chuck in as many LMGs as possible. Having a think back on some of our recent episodes, I think maybe it would have been Armies of Germany, probably maybe even in the USA discussion, we were talking about the effectiveness. I think it was BARs versus LMGs. And how many more you could fit in a list and how much firepower that was going to do. So at one point I was like, look, I could buy 4 ARs per LMG per squad if I wanted to. And I knew that, and I had just historically, I'd made lists where a unit has a function.
Yeah.
So I would have a kill squad that is full of ARs, or a kill squad that is full of SMGs. I never really mixed and matched and tried to. I always kind of thought maybe 1 or 2 ARs in one squad, and each squad didn't really fill a purpose.
Yeah.
But then I've come to realize over a few games that people are just targeting that full AR squad.
Yeah, they are.
It's just never going to get to do what it needs to do. So,
it's like they think that's a threat or something.
yeah. But after a couple of games of things being completely pinned out and never using them, I was like, well, why don't I just split it up?
Yeah.
Why don't I just have a couple in each?
I'm so glad my redundancy finally came through to you, Jacob.
It only took us how long, Gorchin?
I'm going to claim full credit.
There were probably about 20 edits to this list with lots and lots of LMGs all through it. And in the end, I scrapped them and didn't use a single one. But I found that my squads were just very capable. And that's...
horrifyingly so, because you took them veteran as well.
Yeah. And that was interesting. With the 1,000 points, I thought most people would be taking infantry only and most people doing veteran, but that's not what I came up across.
No. I think that's a common theme, is that a lot of people seem to take something that they didn't normally take. Because I was thinking, we met at around 3 and we played each other. Just spoilers. So in my head, before you got your list out and before we talked about it, I'm thinking there's going to be a couple of light vehicles, there's going to be an open-top armored car, there's going to be double LMG Schützen squads, probably a motorcycle or something like this, mostly regular, because there's going to be a medium howitzer. I'm like, I know Jacob, I know how he plays. This is what I'm going to get. There might be a neb instead of a howitzer. And then we went through your list, and I was like, who is this, and what have you done with Jacob? And honestly, I had such a hard time. It was a really strong list.
I think this is more of an all-comers list that you would expect another person to take and not me.
Yeah. It was far too effective for one of your lists.
It was a bit too generic, and I filled most slots with the standard thing that you would add in. I guess the sort of strange addition was having an artillery observer, but I didn't get to use him for pretty much the entire day.
Oh, really?
And that's because every single mission had prep bombardment. I know that we're going to be talking about armies of Great Britain later, but prep bombardment, in my opinion, is trash. I don't care about the results in the sense I didn't actually get too many things that died.
Yeah.
It just sort of slows down that whole first turn.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it, especially when you're trying to get a match down in 2 hours with people that might have extended rules. And maybe someone who hasn't played in a long time and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a fan.
And also, you have to play fast to finish, to walk up to a game, to do the setup, to do the army list talk through, to talk terrain, set up the objectives, discuss anything like that. Easily, it might not take half an hour, but when you include actually getting your armies out and packing them away and being ready for the next round, you've only really got 90 minutes of game time. And so if you're not somebody who normally plays fast or knows how to play fast, it could be a crunch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, our game was the fastest one I played that day, and we it's just because we can read each other and we know exactly what we mean or intentions or whatever else, so we can move things quite quickly.
And also there's a few times where I got some of the modifiers wrong. Just because I was trying to speed play just so we could get through the game, and it was just and you were like, oh, hang on, you got that wrong. And the cool thing about it is it wasn't an argument. You're just you're 100% right. I got that wrong. I can't remember what the dice results were. We'll just re-roll it. And oftentimes it ended up being worse, but that's just dice. I mean, I should just get the modifiers the right first time. But you're right. Having the comfort with each other to actually be able to speed play and be like, I know you know the rules, I know the rules, so let's just actually do the best that we can to play a tight game. And it was a really tight game.
So I had a very tough first game against Nathan.
Is that his Marines?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a tough board. It was one of Nick's original desert boards that just
Yeah.
doesn't have much
Yeah,
cover at
yeah.
all. And yeah, we had that little desert village. We've featured a few times on the channel before. And we've done that with firefight and all that kind of stuff, and that really had an infantry heavy focus shift there.
Yeah.
And that was taking my vision of the board, everything there. But he kind of surprised me with some outflanking duets that had
Canister?
the canister, and the canister is terrible. Oh my god,
It's incredible.
So,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he had a whole flamer, I think, and
Yeah.
a canister as well.
Yeah.
So I had a full vet squad of 10 that died to the flamer. That was just out of terror, and then it was the canister shots coming at my mortars. Luckily, I didn't have like multiple units in the canisters. Canisters, it's either 3 or 4 inch template, but it's 4 of them.
Yeah.
In a row.
Yeah. So I think
clip multiple units.
I think it's 4 3-inch templates to create like
Something
a
like that.
12-inch corridor of death.
Of death. Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you, but it's sub 200 points for sure.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
It's a little nasty piece of work.
And the reason that it's generally that low is because of what it rides on, not because of the weapon itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting weapon because I hadn't actually seen anything with that kind of profile.
I think it's the first event in Perth that someone's actually taken the canister.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it been taken anywhere else.
And it's good to see some players getting some teeth out. I know.
Oh yeah. We need to.
We talk a lot of great things about our community for being self-limiting in terms of the level of stinky cheese that they bring to the table, and that is a great thing by and large. Really being considerate towards your opponent, but at the same time, we kind of don't have an event where you can take the cheesiest stuff ever. And that's not to say that you need to do that. Yeah, not yet. That's not to say that you need to do that, but I think it's kind of ignoring one style of play in one type of player base. It goes, what's the most powerful thing I can bring? So did you end up winning that first game there, Jacob, against the dual canister?
So I lost out on points because I think it's either the mission is called Sectors or it's a very similar one. No, we played Sectors.
Yeah, so the first one is blockbusting.
Blockbusting.
Custom mission, which also is split into 4 sections.
It's a campaign book mission.
And there's conditions of you owning each of those territories, whatever else. I had some units that never got out of their pins from the prep bombardment, which were kind of on the border to contest a piece of the next section. So 6 turns of trying to move a sniper from A to B and just being down by, I think it's like 1 pin or something silly. That's
dice. That's
made
dice.
The difference, right?
Yeah, it would.
But he played it perfectly.
Yeah.
There were definitely some mistakes I made.
Nathan's a fantastic tactical player.
He's really good.
Yeah.
I feel terrible because second game was against David and his daughter. I think it was Maddie. It's one of them that he has a few. And it's really sweet because, he would ask, where should I move this and that? And she'd be picking the dice and all that kind of stuff. And I felt absolutely terrible because I got lucky on prep.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then, that set him up for a bad start. And I'm like, I'm just going to shoot a nebula here. Don't worry, it's not going to hit. And, it did. Like, it hit like 4 times that game. And just, I'd go up to a unit and use the flamer and then they have to run away. I was like, this is the worst feeling game I've ever had.
Yeah, when stuff like that happens, it just feels bad.
And we had been, because David and I met online in preparation for, I think, a 2019 event where we started playing. It would have been an OBSEC event Dan was hosting.
Yeah.
And that's where I really got back into bolt action.
Yeah.
And we have this growing rapport of like starting together. And
you don't anymore because you destroyed the game that his daughter played in.
And we played this event last time, and I completely destroyed his the buffalo with troops in it.
Yeah.
With like
sensing a pattern.
I just feel absolutely terrible. But that game got me the necessary points to get to top table with Gorgeous. Which was surprisingly, it was definitely a tough game. But I think what actually really evened it out is because of the last game, I collected all those Enigma tokens.
Yeah, that really helped.
What that allowed me to do every turn, I could just say, timeout. I'm taking an order dice out, and I get to select to do something with that before we just draw out randomly. I could do that every game turn. And I did it every game turn, and I absolutely needed it because we had some heated exchanges right at the beginning, some stuff that lost in prep as well. And I was on the back foot with order dice. So being able to draw one immediately and do something meaningful with it, in fact, every draw was
critical.
Critical to changing the tempo of that turn.
So that was actually really good. I was looking at that. I'll go forwards and then we'll talk about round 3. So my list building process was completely different to yours, Jacob. When I saw that there was theater selectors, I think last tournament that I went to, theater selectors were open as well. And I brought my Australians, and I brought like a jungle division, and again, sort of similar to TO&E, and that was all hunky dory. It was fine. This time around, I wanted to bring my US, and I was like looking at, I think I have like 25 platoons on Easy Army of like every single theater selector that I looked at that was substantially different. I looked at the Trotters, Derby's Rangers, all of the new ones. I went through all of the mechanized platoons, and all of them were just like, ugh, I don't know. They seemed interesting and cool and fun, but none of them really struck me. And then I was like, oh, stuff this. I need some inspiration. So I wrote this when I did my list review for the benefit of readers want in the Facebook group, in the local Facebook groups. What I do, even before list submission closes, I will actually publicly submit the list that I'm actually taking to the tournament. And I'm not doing that to crowdsource my list, because there have been a few times where I've done that and people have pointed out objective flaws and objective little improvements that I could do, and I don't take them. Something even as simple as, hey, you should put pistols on your BAR gunners so that your whole squad gets tough fighters. It's a really good suggestion, and I couldn't fault it, but I said, I didn't see it, and I submitted my list, and it's an unfair advantage. So the point isn't for me to do that. It's just that I noticed that, fantastically, our community has a lot of new players, and it has a lot of players that don't get a chance to play as regularly, so list building comes up a lot. So I do this as kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do this because this is why I build lists, and hopefully you'll find something interesting in it. Yeah, it's not this is how you should build lists. It's just, this is how I do it, and hopefully you can learn something and see something. So, no joke, I had Band of Brothers on one screen, and I had the field manuals, the World War II field manuals on the other screen. And like, I've seen Band of Brothers so many times that you could start it, mute it, and turn off the screen, and I could still tell you word for word what was happening and the lines being spoken. So it just takes me into like a trance-like meditative state. And I'm looking through these field manuals, and at this point it was a couple episodes in, and they'd gotten to Bastogne, and I was like, right, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the paratroopers in Bastogne, and it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. So I'm looking through the Battle of Bulge book, and I find, hands down, the most disgusting thing that everybody thinks is illegal, and it's goddamn rifle grenades. And just below the rifle grenades was something far more disgusting, which is the airborne engineer medium machine gun teams. You can only take them as veteran. They cost 75 points a team, which is 10 points more than a normal veteran team. They start the game dug in hardcover, hidden in ambush.
Do they forward deploy as well?
No, they don't.
Yeah, okay.
I did ask Fortune about that.
And it's filthy. You're paying 10 points to get a medium machine gun team that starts in ambush and is neg 4 to hit. and it's
essentially entrenched and ready to go,
Yeah.
rock and roll.
and it's not doesn't count as in a building, so it's not like you can just aim a howitzer point blank at it either. It's like dug in hardcover is better than being in a building, as far as I'm concerned. They're just so I spent like a normal human being. I spent 225 points on medium machine guns,
Which
they're not
no one has
meta.
ever done.
which is what we actually tell everybody not to do. In fact, we tell people to do the opposite. If you're going to take a medium machine gun team, take them inexperienced because they're a cheap auto dice. They're a nice backfield holder because they count as infantry. And at 5, maybe 6 shots, depending on your faction, you can still reach out and put a pin on something. These things were horrifying because you wanted to destroy them, and your best strategy was to completely avoid them because it only shoots 5 shots, and they are neg 4 to hit. So just ignore them. But nobody did. I think Jacob, you were the only one who ignored them, which is
I don't know why, because I had such bad luck. I had a Panzer Shrek team and a Kubel die to a medium machine gun on table 1.
Yeah.
That was just an ambush. But I just decided not to. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll just go for the main squads, and that probably kept me alive as long as it.
Oh, for sure. So in that first game, I just deployed them in a straight line across the middle. To fill out, I had 3 squads of 8 veteran stubborn paratroopers with 1 BAR and 1 SMG. One of the squads had no BAR and 5 SMGs. So the idea was that I have 2, just in case I needed more firepower. I had 2 firepower elements and an assault element. 2 medium mortars, because the Bastion, I think it's Battle of the Bulge, lets you take 2 medium mortars and a light howitzer and 2 bazooka teams. No vehicles, no transports, nothing. It was just honest to goodness, like bootleg paratroopers. And first game, I was up against Hugo, he was kind of new, and I felt bad because he was a newer player, which is so obviously I wasn't going to go super hard at him, but also I had some pretty hot dice, so it's kind of like.
So you did.
Well, it got to the point where I was like, look, I'm going to be honest. Like, we're here to play. If you've got any questions, I'll happily answer them. If you want to know what to do, if you want some suggestions, I'm happy to give them to you. But ultimately, I'm going to play the best game that I can. And he was like, yeah, man, cool. That's exactly what I'm here for. He was chill about that.
Awesome.
And so he started with 9 dice, and I started with 12. But of course, 3 of them weren't in the bag. And so I was like, oh man, I get to start the game with 3 units in ambush and I have the same dice chance. I was like, the one thing I was ready to give up. And he had a lot of regulars and that sort of thing. I think he had a Panzer IV, a half track, a medium howitzer. And so he had a lot of toys. And I think that's why he was only at 8 or 9 dice. Yeah, and it was just like, he'd move an infantry squad forward and they'd cop a pin, lose a couple of guys, and then they'd get into trading with my veteran squads and then they'd be dead. And it was very much a case of like destroy one thing at a time. I also, one of the things I was very conscious of is my list is actually really vulnerable to 2 things, and that's concentration. So if they try to kill one unit, they'll definitely kill it. Another thing was snipers and anything that can take out team weapons readily. So, a full squad of 10 riflemen shooting at a team that isn't my MMG will kill it 100%. But bazooka team, medium mortar, light howitzer, they would just be dead. So I had to play really, really, like, my list was horrendously fragile. To the point where, Hugo, my opponent, was like, I'm going to go for an indirect medium howitzer shot on your veteran paratrooper squad. It's a 6. And I was like, I'm going to go down. It's like turn 2. And I'm in hard cover. He's got no idea.
What are you doing, man?
No, I'm going down. No.
But I'm thinking at this game, it was like the only way that I win, because it's sector control, is I have to shift him out of a sector. It's turn 2. What am I doing right now? The only thing I need to do right now is stay alive. So I went down and he landed the hit. So I'd always say don't go down on a 6, and generally good advice. But I was like, I only have 3 infantry squads, and if one of them is dead, it's not worth it. And they still copped it. Like there was 4 guys left after that. And they copped they copped lots of pins. But I literally just ran my first lieutenant up and down the lines, rallying people between prep bombardments and howitzer hits.
That sounds very Band of Brothers to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like straight out of the series.
Yeah. I just all I can imagine is there was one unit. My SMG unit copped 1 pin in prep bombardment, and they went down for 2 turns, and then I got my LT over there, and I just imagine that scene with like Lieutenant Witter standing there, just like, fire your weapon, Blythe. and so that was good. And then it was kind of one of those things that I picked off a couple of units, and I kind of managed to stack on those advantages. Credit where credit is due. His Hana Mag copped 4 bazooka hits without destroying.
Damn! How does that happen?
And 2 indirect hits landing without it destroy.
I mean, that says more about your rolling than his survivability.
Yeah. So both of those indirect hits were off 6s. So I
even have troops inside.
Yeah, he did. He had a full squad of 10. In the squad.
Defense, Jacob, but they were in there.
But it was just one of those things that I was able to really like. You know, his Hana Mag would move, and I would just slap a pin on it with an ambushed MMG. And that was it. You know, his shooting was worse. His guys couldn't get out. All of that sort of stuff. So, and his Panzer IV was not bulletproof or bazooka proof. It took two bazookas right through the side, and that was unfortunate. And yeah, it got to like the last turn. It was basically a case of he had 1 dice left in the bag, which is a squad of 10, and they were on 6 pins, and it's a full squad of 10 veterans. And it basically got to the point was, can I stack another 4 pins onto them before his dice comes out of the bag and he can rally them?
Rally?
And he got the rally before I could pin them out.
Good.
So I managed
the proper outcome.
Correct, yeah. I did manage to scoop up all 6 Enigma tokens, which made my second game a lot easier. And then I got 3 out of 4 sectors and 8 out of 9 dice. So it was a really great way to start the day. And I wasn't a spoon about it. I checked in with Hugo. I was like, look, man, I don't want you to think that I'm just picking on you because you're new. I didn't want him to get the feeling that I was just walking up to that table. It's like, aha, easy win. I'm going to put you in the bin, which was not my intention at all.
The revenge will be sweeter, Hugo. Come back for another bite.
Absolutely. Please do. I very much look forward to that game. The second game was against Jake. Fabulous, fun opponent. Also pretty new to the scene as well. I think it was his second, maybe his first tournament as well. So definitely a big thing that got me to the top table was having strength of schedule, as they call them in NFL. I didn't come across... Normally, I usually get pitted against some pretty tough opponents. And so the games are usually even, or I get stomped into the dirt if I come across some players. And so that made my day a little bit easier. Second game, it was a similar styled list, but it was a full 12 points. It was about 5 small regular German squads again, half track, Panzer III, Nebelwerfer, Kubelwagen with an MG on it, that sort of thing. And that was very much a game of cat and mouse at the start. He had a sniper that could see like 5 out of 7 of my teams. And he had 12 dice in the bag and I had 9 because I put my guys in ambush. I got hit 4 times by the explosive prep bombardment, and he got hit 3. So fair's fair. Neither of us actually lost the team. But
wait, so you had 12 dice, he had 12 dice. You took 4 hits, he took 3 hits. So 7 units out of 24 got rolled with a 6 on.
Yeah. Yeah, and Justin's standing next to me, and we had just finished my side of the table, and I'd got 4 hits, and like everything's pinned to shit. And I turned to Justin, who was the TO, and I'm like, "This is why I hate prep bombardment." and then it happened to Jake, and I turned around and was like, "Prep bombardment's okay."
I do think that that we obviously had a fair bit of feedback on the prep bombardment, and it typically goes back and forth throughout the different scenes. But a lot of the stories that I heard from the skulls that came out, because unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, so I got all those winter Bulgarians painted, and they still didn't get to go.
The spicy cough kept you at home, hey?
Yeah, we ended up with COVID, which we're all fine and dandy now.
Good to hear.
kids got tested and clean.
Awesome.
Got the result back yesterday, so we're all fine.
Awesome.
We didn't really get hit that badly, but we did have it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't come and spread it around to you all.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, a lot of you do. I was disappointed, but that's okay. But yeah, a lot of the commentary came back was like, okay, look, we get the prep bombardment sort of swings and does roundabouts, but that was a horrible day. That was just bad.
And this is where the Enigma, the intelligence thing, really came into play, because I started the game pulling my dice out, and I was like, that's going on my howitzer, and I'm going to shoot your sniper in a building. Do you want to go down? And he went, no. And I was like, it's going to be like a 5, man, because it's small team, long range. That's it. And he's like, yeah, I'll take the hit. And I was like, okay, like reasonable, 33% chance I hit. Get the 6 straight through the front window. D6 number of hits, get the 6, sniper team dead. And I was like, all right, I can take a big deep breath now, because now 5 of my units aren't going to get killed very reliably. And then he goes, I have a Nebelwerfer that you can't see, except with one of your mortar spotters. And I was like, shit. And then I, of course, like an idiot, forget. Well, I don't forget. I just kind of don't think about it. That
you take the risk.
Well, that Nebelwerfers can target buildings. And then the directions out.
It's straight off them.
and so I'm like, here we go. And because I have a lot of small teams, I'm just like, he's rolling to hit like 8 units, and I'm like, he's gonna hit 1. So he starts with the spotter, and he nails him. He nails the spotter with like 13 hits. Just delete. So it was 8 because he was in a building. Deletes the spotter, and then doesn't hit anything else. And I'm like, okay, horrifying, but also I can breathe for a turn now because you didn't actually hit it. And I then lost line of sight to his Nebel with both of my mortars.
Yep.
And so then
ironically for him, just killing the spotter was probably all that he actually needed to accomplish.
It was a great start, because then he could just keep hitting the building and he could keep clipping heaps of units. Then what I realized is that he only had 1 unit, 1 squad on that flank by the Nebel, and I had 2. So I just did the American thing. I just moved forward with my rifles and BARs, and I just kept pinning the squad, flanked the Nebel, killed that. And that sort of right flank was going pretty well. The left flank, he had like 3 squads and a Kubel wagon, and I only had 1 squad on that flank and a couple of bazooka teams, and it was all just a bit shit for me. And then it was kind of like the game was teetering a little bit in the middle, as it normally does. And I had the intelligence dice, but wasn't making all of the difference. At that point in the game, it was really useful in the first couple of turns. And then his Panzer III comes out of reserve, his half-track loaded with like a full squad of 10 veterans comes out of reserve, gunning straight up the middle, and I'm just like, one of my bazookas is dead, the other one's on 3 pins with no loader. I'm like, this is not going to go well. Then, lo and behold, 1 mortar lands a 6 on the Panzer III, gives it 3 pins, the other mortar over the top, straight through the half-track. I was like, yes. Yeah. And that half track also took it didn't actually die from the mortar hit, and then took a howitzer hit through the front to get the units to vomit out. But it was like, it happened. I was like, I have nothing to answer this armored assault, and it's turn 3, and he can just walk through all of my guys. And yeah.
Wow.
Mortars coming through to save the day. Look, honestly, if you can take 2 mortars and a light howitzer, do it. Good God, do it. Yeah. Everybody loves it. He's like, why would you take multiple mortars? And I was like, because they're disgusting. They're absolutely disgusting.
Well, and the funny thing is, you didn't even try and abuse the mortars necessarily. So there are things that you can, like people go, oh, how would you abuse mortars? Well, I mean, it does mean that you can put down 2 smoke templates that are 3 inches wide, which means you're putting down potentially a 6-inch corridor. I mean,
yeah.
You start putting certain things together, and yes, it scatters and all that other stuff. I know, I get it, but it's still more terrain than was on the table that began with.
Yeah,
6 inches worth is not really that much to.
And I think you can,
if
you miss with the smoke, it's only move it 12 inches from its original target or something. There's like a little radius you can move it in. It's not placed it anywhere. So
it's just a donut.
Yeah.
You just got to learn where the donut fits.
Yeah, and then at that point it was kind of just a steady disassemble. I felt really bad for his Panzer III because he managed to get it up to like 1 pin off Ravelli, and then he's like, "It's 1 pin, I'll activate it." Reverse, reverse, reverse. It didn't feel so bad because by turn 4, everything that I had on 1 pin just decided it didn't want to fight anymore. I think I spent all of turn 4. I moved 1 infantry squad, and everything else went down. Just didn't want to fight. I was like, okay, I'll pack my dice up. And the Jake very cleverly outsmarted me. There was a little corridor that was covering the center half of the board, and it was basically holding off a lot of his reinforcements from stopping my right flank assault that was winning. And there was just an MMG pointed down that corridor. And then he just moved his Kubelwagen through it, and I was like, haha, free Kubelwagen. And like an idiot, I shot at it. And like, I caught the pin, didn't kill it. And then he just moves like 4 infantry squads past the gap. And I was like, yeah, look, Jake, that was really clever, actually. I can't fault that.
I appreciate I got duped there. Yep.
Didn't work in my game.
And then
I thought it would have been that why waste your shots on this, or if you do, then you're not going to go.
Yeah.
The squad that actually wants to move. And
the problem was you didn't tell your driver to duck.
and then when we got to our game, Jacob, your artillery observer got prep bombarded, right?
And we used the Enigma token to say that he was going to do it, and then we're like, "Oh crap, we got to do prep bombardment. Do you want to?" And you're like, "Well, I guess we have to."
It's in the pack, yeah.
It kind of sucks.
You mean he got Gorchened?
Yeah.
He got Gorchened.
Yeah.
And the sniper got killed very quickly.
Yeah, that was another mortar burst.
I didn't realize how important. I didn't realize how important he was going to be until probably
until he was dead.
So. Yeah, pretty much. And again, don't know what you're doing, Gorchen, but everything was hugging that building. So like the Neville became useful. It didn't really hit anything, but it just.
Oh no, it did.
Like 1 or 2 guys.
No, there was a bit in turn 3 when like you landed like 3 3-inch templates, but one of them was on an infantry squad, and the other 2 were on medium machine gun teams. So the like maximum number of hits you could get was, I think, 2. And I'm like, sure, man, whatever. Like, you want to take a medium machine gun team, sure.
But deployment wise, I think it was that we could.
That one was sectors.
That one was sectors, so we had a lot of stuff that was kind of towards the center on either side, because a lot of the Enigma tokens were dumped in the middle as well.
Yeah, because you had 2 in the middle, right? And then the others were essentially they're still close, even though they're in the star pattern.
So each token was still 1 VP, but and I kind of went for the bait, and I rounded up as many Enigma tokens as I could, but Gorchen, reading the actual missions and whatever else, he could actually see that he'd get more VP trying to get into my zones, etc. And I got blindsided by just collecting everything that I could.
And that's one of the benefits of that list, is because all of your units can run 12 in my list. So even the medium machine gun teams on blockbusting as well, I literally just last turn picked them up and walked them over the lines. Just to make sure, and I was like, you don't need your bunker anymore. We're on counterattack.
And it wasn't until you're getting like 1 or 2 of your units right at the end of the game into those sectors, I'm like, oh yeah, we're playing sectors.
Although you are selling yourself short. So the reason I was hugging that building, well, I guess in my defense, was that sectors is you deploy in a corner, and you lose a semicircle at the middle. Just on the edge of that semicircle was a goddamn building that was like 10 by 10. There was nowhere in my deployment zone that was not within your MRL.
Which board did you play on?
It was one of the desert ones. It wasn't one of Nick's ones.
Okay. Would have been potentially one of Andy Lawson's then.
Yeah, maybe. No, it wasn't that one. I started my game on that desert board.
Okay.
I think it was
like one of Jackson's ones, but he wasn't there.
I think it was it was the other Nick's.
Okay.
Yeah, with the crashed 109 Thunderbolt Frankenstein vehicle. One of those eBay buys.
It's cool, and that's what matters.
Absolutely, it looks awesome. Yeah, and then again, the medium machine gun teams. Everybody's like, "Oh, they're so scary." And I was like, I got one of Jacob's units up to 9 goddamn pins, and it was a full squad of veterans
I
without
haven't had a crack casualty yet.
killing a single guy. And I shot him for 2 turns, and I couldn't kill a single guy. And then he's just like, "I'm just gonna rally."
Rally, yeah.
Because you keep asking me each interaction, you're like, "You sure you don't want to go down? The pins are getting a little bit high." I'm like, no,
I try to use psychology to bump it out.
No, it's.
I'll wait till the end of the turn, and I'll just do the rally.
But it's just because I play procedurally. I think it's really easy to skip over the "would you like to go down," and then you roll the dice, and then it becomes an issue. You just go, "Do you want to go down?" And then that way, and it's also for me, so I actually give my opponent a chance to go down because
I often do it.
So quick with the maths. Like I can go, hey, what are the modifiers here? It's like, look, it's going to be on 5s or 6s or whatever, and typically it's right without having to, mentally go through the 3 or 4 things.
Good guy Gorching actually telling you the right figures, or the ones he got wrong, saying no, they're all 3 pluses.
We only came to that once or twice, and maybe it was like a small team modifier at the end, and go, oh, actually, I don't think that unit died or whatever.
Yeah,
and that was game 3. That was you guys matched up in game 3, right?
Yeah.
So you've already played 2 games at that point.
Yeah, and I felt pretty good. I don't think I think that there was a mix-up with the missions and stuff, and
with some of the other tables, yeah.
A lot of people started playing the wrong mission in turn 2, and that meant the matchups got a little bit weird. But I felt, comfortable and happy that I'd made it to a table that Gorchin was at the end of the day. It made me feel like that, maybe I've earned it. I don't know.
No, okay. So let me 2 things. One, you played extremely well. Your list was an absolute devil to beat. Now you can see where everybody runs 10-man veteran squads, because I think you still had 2 healthy squads at the end of the game. The other thing is, this is the second tournament where I've placed best ally general. The other 3 tournaments in the middle, I was right at the bottom of the ladder. So I don't know why I have this reputation. I have played like 7 or 8 tournaments, maybe 9, and I've won 2 of them. The rest have been right at the bottom. Sorry, there was one I got 3rd. But I don't know why this is...
Don't take it away from me, because I've been at the bottom of the ladder the whole damn time.
I was just trying to correct my reputation.
I didn't even place. The one time I could have played an event, I still didn't get a place.
Oh, that's the real tragedy here, Dan. I think it was like the night before you copped it as well, hey?
It was literally so it was the 2 days before we'd done the test, and we were waiting on the result to come back. We didn't get the result until the day before. Yeah. But by that point I'd reminded myself to essentially go, this isn't going to happen. And so I sent a few messages around, and I went, not gonna work.
Next event, Dan. Next event. We'll see those Bulgarians out.
Yeah, look, they'll come. They'll be ready. They're painted now, so it's.
we'll come play a game in your garage at least, just so you can get them.
Speaking of, what's on the cards for Perth? What's coming up next?
Yeah, so that was Skull's Enigma. Coming up, as far as I know, I think there's going to be another Outpost event sometime soon. And then there'll be another one in November. What's really awesome is that the guys down in Albany, who, Dan, are more than 45 minutes away. They're 4 or 5 hours away.
Apology has been sent.
They are actually running an event down there. They just shifted it. It's the 2nd and 3rd of July. So it's a Saturday, Sunday. It's 2 games Saturday afternoon, 2 games Sunday morning. So for those of us who can't get an extended weekend, you can drive down on Saturday and drive up on the Sunday. 888 points, which is I think is a shout out to Cast Ice, Harry Turner, all of the guys over east who do like random points. And armored platoons are available. Theater select is completely open, and I think it's 2 platoons. I'm not sure about that one. I'll have to double check that one.
It's certainly a lot more open than what historically some others have been. We're waiting for all the final details in the players pack for what's coming through. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
I'm in a position where I think I'm going to be available to go down. So I'm just trying to tie up those loose ends, validate the things that are happening with work in case I need to do implementations over that weekend, and make sure I've got all those dates covered now that it's shifted by the week. But I think I'm okay. And that means that I am probably in a position where I could come down. It's also the first 2-day event in Perth that we've had for a long period of time.
I think it's a really well thought out structure.
Oh, it's great. 2 games across the days, weekend away. They've got a great little venue down there that they use normally in Apple.
Awesome.
And so if they're using the same place, it's awesome. It's a great little spot.
There's a couple of hiking trails down there, and the one thing that the bolt action guys will be really keen on is there's a military museum down there. I looked it up the other day. I can't remember. There's something unique about it. I think even Southern Hemisphere unique. There's something about that. The museum, the military museum down in Albany that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, so that should be very, very interesting. The 888 points, I've already started trying to wrangle a couple of lists to figure out what can I get in that sort of a space.
I've already been called out and told not to take 5 Chaffies, and I kind of feel like now that Rubicon has a Chaffee kit, I just have an excuse to buy 5 Chaffies.
Yeah, and there's lots of. I mean, I don't know if I'm quite ready to start another force yet. I don't know if I'll get them done in time if that's them. But there's a few different things that I've been playing with around that points limit to try and figure out, because I'll still do something that is fun. Like it's not going to be. I could play with a lot of cheese stuff. I tend not to because I don't find it as fun. That's why I play Bulgaria. But then at the same time. Pushing the odds a certain way to get the benefit out of something, I don't mind doing that. So we'll see what I can come up with once I can confirm I can go.
The other thing I'm thinking about doing is Panzer Grenadiers. I want to just get like 3 half tracks with Panzerbücher, get a couple of TAC 40s, maybe a Stug or Drei, and just rock up because I don't play Germans. I have a German army. So it'll be a good time.
Goliath?
Oh, yeah. I need to find the theater select. No, I don't need to find a Goliath. I need to find a theater select that takes me like 12 of them. That's
I was going to say it's.
So you're talking about Panzer Grenadiers there. There are some interesting stuff that you can take. Panzer, I think it's the Panzer Schreck Drupen or something like that. It's multiple Panzer Schrecks in a squad. It's
Panzerzerstörer. Like it's a 6-man squad with 3 Panzer Schrecks. Yeah.
And any man in that squad, I believe it is, can also take a Panzerfaust. So your NCO and your other guys can also take a Panzerfaust. So it's basically everyone takes something that can possibly kill a tank and then go kill some tanks.
Well, what I love about that unit is because you get Panzerfaust, you can just like walk into the middle and just like firework Panzerfausts in every direction. 2 for you and 2 for you and 2 for you.
How upset would you be if all guns blaze at the one target and still stand?
I wouldn't even be mad at that point. Yeah, I wouldn't even be mad. It's like it's another bulletproof half track.
You just bring a custom smoke marker or something that's got the explosion bits, and you just put it wherever it hit. It doesn't matter. You just put it down.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm bringing Panzerzerstörer, I'm like making tea lights. Specifically, just be like, that's a cute vehicle you bought.
That's like an 18-inch foot of cotton wool. Yeah.
So any of the Perth guys, please reach out.
Absolutely.
If you're thinking about going to this event in Albany, I think it would actually be a good idea that we start something on the Bolt Action group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talk about not just the event, but also the taxi of how to get there. I'm sure there'll be a few options for those who can't transport there to actually get there with some other players or whatever else. Because it is a bit of a significant undertaking to get all the way down there.
Yeah.
But obviously, the whole Albany team's been supporting Perth this whole time.
I think there's one tournament where there hasn't been an Albany guy, and it was it was like a last minute thing that just kept shifting and canceling. I think that's the only one that didn't make it to. So they're absolute stalwarts of the community, and I wouldn't like, in my opinion, we owe it to them. They've been such a cornerstone of getting these events up and running, and also just making sure that everybody in the community feels that connection and that those guys are involved. And the least we can do is support them in their inaugural event. I think they are capped at, I vaguely remember it's 16 or 20 players or whatever. So if they have to turn people away, that is the best thing we can do for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So get down to Albany.
Anything in the RHG realm, Dan? Any events coming up?
Not specifically right away. There's a couple that are on the back burner to plan through. So one of them is the follow-up event to Attack on Cameron Ridge from the Battle of Karen. And so that will pick up the siege of Fort. I can never say the name. There's a lot of O's in the name. I remember that much. But essentially, this fort was the last defensible position before the actual city of Karen itself, where they went into. And so we did the attack on Cameron Ridge, which then led to the attacks on the other nearby ridges and pinnacles to get all the high ground. And then they move in on this fort. So we'll do a siege battle on the fort and the town, and then proceed from there, following the campaign along the rail line and the road into Karen, and run that campaign out over the 3 games. So that'll probably take until the end of this year.
What rough time period is that in the war?
It's 1941.
Okay.
So it's actually sort of still in that early period. It's Western Desert, North Africa, theatre and equipment, and a lot of times, it was hard desert fighting for a lot of it. So probably in the next 2 battles, I might pull some extra desert fighting style rules in for the settlements, maybe a special sandstorm or something. I won't drop too many secrets of that, but the idea is that these are narrative fun events, competitive ones, and so you're coming to play as part of a team for the story, either on the Axis or the Allied side. Largely British and Italian were the 2 main forces, British Commonwealth and Italian. But yeah, there's scope for anything. If we've got players that have Japanese guys and they're coming in to fight because that's what they've got, that's great. Come down, have fun. It's about getting some fun games in.
It's about theme rather than exclusion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll just throw out there, anybody who is listening, is in Perth, hasn't bothered hasn't had the courage or built an army or whatever else, please do get involved with these clubs. Outposts, RHG, best places to learn about bold action. And in particular, just wanted to do a shout out to John Beeson. He does a lot of great narrative events, particularly on bolt action in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I think he's working on some of the Argentina stuff as well.
Yeah, started a Falklands War campaign.
Falklands War.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing I would say as well, posing the question to those of us that are involved in the community, go, hey, I want to learn or I want to get involved. I have no idea where to start or what to go on. I don't want to invest a whole bunch of money. That's fine. We often are able to find a force for you to get started with to just learn with at the time.
Yeah.
So, don't feel that is not achievable. We'd rather have you come down, try it out, give it a bit of a go, and actually go, no, it's not for me right now, than sit at home wondering whether it's for you. We'd rather you try and come down, have a chat with us all, get it sorted out. And if it isn't what you want, that's fine. There's no pressure. But if you do like it, well, then we can talk about the next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we hope to hear from you all soon, and we hope to see you down in Albany. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back for Armies of Great Britain.
Today, we are talking about Armies of
USA.
That was last time, Tyler.
No.
That was last time. We're talking about Armies of Great Britain.
That episode.
We're up to Great Britain, mate.
You know that episode that you went in? All right, now we can actually continue on with the episode.
Oh, poor Tyler.
We'll see if we can get him back.
It was a good month or so since we did the last one.
We did do a G&T between it, so
Yep.
Yeah, you absolutely did. We might have to do another one if he's salty. But oh no, here he is.
Bit of a wardrobe change, maybe.
All right.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
As I was saying, we are doing UK. Yeah.
Great Britain. We got that.
Great Britain.
Great Britain. That's it. That's
So,
it.
switch to another shirt.
I love it.
Find a Union Jack.
Used to have one actually. Don't anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to skip over that one.
We just went through our recap of Skulls. But yes, we are all here today. We have a full cast, full team.
Yeah, I know.
All to talk about.
Online.
First one online with all of us. I think probably the first videos with all of us on since Armies of Germany.
Really? It's been that long?
I think so. And it's definitely one of the first ones where all of us actually got working camera setups.
I was going to say it's one of the only ones where all of us have t-shirts. Dan.
Oh, mine's the long way around.
I do have this beautiful logo that was done for me by my brother-in-law, though.
He gets a pass.
Gets a pass.
Yeah, hold on.
So
I actually can't find my HMG shirt. I'll have to just order another set.
Order another set? You mean the HMG shirt that I made?
Well, if the orders have to go through you, so be it.
With a thermal printer.
I mean, look, listeners, if you want an HMG shirt, let me know.
Or a mug or a patch.
Yeah, we'll put together a
keyring
or whatever else.
Yeah.
And we'll get some more fancy shirts.
We'll get some print-on-demand stuff. If you guys want it, we'll make it.
Yeah. Anything bolt action, we'll do it.
I'm a bit rusty on this. Where are we starting, boys?
So we started with the national characteristics, typically.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, that's what's special.
After getting the nation right, that's where we start.
Armies of
I
Great
don't know what you're
Britain,
talking about.
Not armies of UK, not armies of USA, not armies of Germany, which half this episode's been about already. In all of the recap as well.
Of course,
now, who has the most information on Great Britain as a nation in bolt action? Why would you want to play them? Is anyone got feedback?
I mean, I've got a TO view of what I've seen come through.
More than what I've got.
Competition. Yep. I've played Great Britain, with my dad on a couple of occasions. I've played against them quite a lot. They're quite well rounded. Like the force and the natural selection they have of their unit types, the natural selection of their breadth of their units, inclusive of all the Commonwealth infantry, for example, and their different colonial stations and empires where they raised their troops from. A lot of that actually is reflected in the rules to some degree. Some of it is campaign books, so we won't get into that today. But yeah, I find them quite a balanced force. They don't have necessarily rules that are very pointy, but they actually have some very good rules that they're not super forgivable, but at the same time, they're actually sometimes more forgivable than what people give them credit for. So
I've played it. Go ahead, Tyler.
Go on.
No, you go ahead.
You guys were just talking. You just did the recap on Skulls. I imagine?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. So a couple of people, I didn't go. I didn't make it, unfortunately. But a couple of people I know got pretty upset at prep bombardment being a major factor. In that. And I mean, it relates to Great Britain massively because for their bombardments, they roll twice and choose the best result. So that's actually, I know you're saying they don't have many pointy rules, but I think that's a point of contention.
Yeah. I would also argue
that's fair. That's fair.
I would also argue that blood curdling charge is extremely pointy when you get stabbed by 15 bayonets.
That's more literally
combinations.
But yeah, that's one of their special rules. Is that when it comes to prep bombardment, they roll dice and pick the best. One of the things I like about this wording, it says pick the best. So even if you wanted to be nice and pick the worst one, you couldn't. You just have to shit all over your opponent in prep bombardment. And then the other one is artillery support, which is if you can take an artillery observer in your force, you get an additional one for free, and it doesn't count towards your limits and doesn't count towards points either. Pretty powerful. Our meta really likes artillery observers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one comes... Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
No. You go.
This one really comes down to, as you say, Gorchum, whether or not people in the area are using them. So we typically see artillery observers quite a bit. They're not quite a staple in the metagame necessarily overall, but a lot of people in Perth do use them. I've used them almost exclusively for goodness knows how many years now, because I like leveraging the effect that they can provide. And so most of the British players that play one go, well, yeah, I'm going to take one, because if I don't, the risk is that you're going to have one and I won't, because we see a lot of them. And all of a sudden it's like, well, it should be something that I'm using to get a leg up on, to at least get the one down, even if I don't buy the second one. Irrelevant. If the expectation is that we're going to see them, then I can just take the one and that's fine.
Yeah.
Go, Tyler.
Once again, I was just going to shit talk. So
no, I'm here for it. I want to hear all of this.
That's all I want to hear.
This is more anecdotal than anything, but I was playing with a guy once. We were both pretty new at the time. I won't mention names, but he was playing British, and he had the bombardment special rule, and he applied it to both of his artillery observers as well.
Oh,
yeah.
And that's a classic faux pas on the way that, because observers, spotters, the prep bombardment, the artillery strike, for someone who's getting used to the game, a lot of those things use very similar language, and when they try and relate it to what they understand real life to look like, those things can get very confusing. It took me a long time to understand that the artillery barrage and the prep bombardment table were two separate tables. For a long time, I was playing the prep bombardment as just an artillery strike that came in earlier, and I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Very wrong.
Like, wrong in so many levels.
I think the artillery support one's kind of interesting. Like, do you, as a British player, do you just take one for free always because you can? And then how do you justify not doubling down? Because, see, I'm one of those people where I'm like, fire maneuver, I'm moving and shooting. BARs, I'm taking 15 of them. You know, I'm just one of those people, with the exception of the aerial observer, if I'm trying to win, because there's 100 points better spent elsewhere. But artillery observers are really good.
Nice.
And you can double down on them. So, you know, if I was playing British, I'd be like, why would you not buy two of them for the price of one? Like, I'm a sucker for deals. Like, somebody's like, buy two for one. I'm like, can I buy four?
I'm definitely in the same camp. Like, I mean, if I can take 10 assault rifles in a squad and make them all fanatic and veteran, I will. Let's spend as many points as we can in one area, right? So I'm totally of the opinion that take as many as possible. However, right, I've only played a couple games as British. I'm still building up my force. But I've never even thought about the idea of taking two.
Yeah.
Until we're having this discussion now, I didn't even think that you could take two. So
you're welcome for turning your world upside down.
Yeah, whoever I verse next, I'm so sorry.
Blame me.
Really, because you're going to do it.
Fortune made me do it.
Yeah.
He's up there.
I think
I'm playing that game with you, Tyler. Let's do it.
I'll bring my
change Jacob's win ratio.
0%, still 0%.
I'll take my dug-in veteran MMGs. Let's go. I'm here for it all day.
And I'll take
the way to deal with them.
Yes, yes. Just delete them with artillery.
I was going to say I'll take my dual veteran US platoons with 2 airstrike observers. Let's do this. I'm happily.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now that we're stacking observers to blow each other up out of the sky, the third national characteristic, or arguably the third slot, is one of the things that really sets the great armies of Great Britain aside. So
I think it's awesome.
Rather than just getting one given to you, you actually get a table of characteristics to pick from. Some of these are obviously like calculably better than others. And I think a lot of people lean on those ones a fair bit, and reasonably so. But I think that some of the other ones get kind of slept on. The one that really murked me was when I was still playing Bolt Action. I borrowed a German army, and I think it was one of Jacob's, just like stacking MMGs. And I was like, cool, man, I'll just shoot everything to death. I got all day for this. and I was playing against Nick, and he had blood curdling charge, and I had like squad of 10 in a building, dual MGs, and he was playing 8th Army, so we had a lot of like commandos, and he was using his 15 CWTs, little transports, to hide them. And I was just like, I'm going to charge you guys in the building. I'm going to shoot you. And he's like, yeah, that's cute. And he just punched me right in the face.
It's like, cool story, bro.
Yeah. So blood curdling charge is enemy units cannot react to an assault by shooting at them. Ambush is
free charge, baby.
Yeah, I think ambush is the exception because you're not reacting to an assault; you're reacting to a movement.
Yeah, you're triggering an ambush. That still works.
Yeah, and it doesn't apply if units launching the assault are inexperienced, including any units that start out as green. So if you get green and they upgrade to regular, they don't get blood curdling charge. I think that one's really good, but combat's a bit swingy, so you've got to have a spine for it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
a stiff upper lip, as the Brits would say.
Yeah. You got to be prepared, and the reason, because we made commentary, or I made commentary saying that the rules aren't necessarily too pointy and beneficial. The only reason that I would say that these ones isn't pointy is because there is choice, so it's not an automatic grant. Because some of the other bonuses, and my two favorites, we'll get to, but definitely blood curdling charge is a strong contender for one of the better forces. You can build your force a certain way, take advantage of certain units that you've got access to in the book, which combined with essentially immunity to assaults, it's pretty powerful.
I think that's probably the at least from having played against Brits, either blue on blue or with my German army. The feeling that I got where list building is very much about getting the right synergy. And so if you're somebody who's really enjoys that, whether you're coming from a Magic the Gathering background, deck building, or you're coming from like 40k or something like this, where synergies are a big deal, you'll probably feel that more in a British army than you will in some of the other nations.
Absolutely.
One of the other ones is sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, just quickly, just as a broad overview, I mean, probably could mention this at the end, but I'm going to mention it now while it's on the brain. There is everything in this national characteristic, like the choices you can make, all except one of them are, I won't say close combat related, but are about being like close quarters with the enemy, which I think is really interesting.
That's probably why they get slept on, actually, just because close quarters seems to be quite swingy. Ironically, these rules are exactly the thing that allow you to mitigate all of that swing and win. The one is Up and Atom, which looks like a budget Banzai to me.
It's a little bit, it essentially is like budget bonsai. So if the unit in the army has this special rule, anytime they're ordered to make an assault, it's automatically treated as having been passed. The unit that is assaulted has to roll whatever they would have needed to pass the order. So if you needed double ones, congratulations, you got double ones and the free rally. This rule does not apply for inexperienced troops in the same way. A lot of these rules won't apply to inexperienced troops. Some do, however.
So can you? I guess this is kind of a rules as written versus a rules as intended. Could you declare an assault for a unit that's like 36 inches away and an auto pass?
So
From
if you in
from
order
a TO's
to
perspective.
so there's a difference between, in my opinion, there's a difference between initiating what could potentially be an assault within 12 inches. And then deliberately just initiating a run order and calling it. To me, they're different things. The intent of play is different. If you're looking at something that you go, that's pretty much going to be close to, if not on 12, you're going to have other indicators that potentially lead to that, to make that assumption. If you're wrong, you're forced to run towards it anyway by failed charge rules. The only difference is that you're going to get to do that without passing. For something that is clearly bigger than, let's say clearly bigger than 13 inches, or clearly bigger than, let's make it a bit more realistic. Let's say 15 inches, because 15 inches to 12 inches visually is quite different.
Those 3 inches mean a lot, guys.
So let's but if it was 15 inches or more, or heaven forbid, like 24 inches or 36 inches, I would not, as a TO, I would not be allowing at my events a up and atom auto pass.
Right.
Bonsai is different because bonsai requirement is to run towards the nearest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a TO. I've never run my event yet. Coming soon. Possibly, who knows? I'm moving house at the moment in case you can't tell, but yeah. Anyway, now that that's out of the way. With the up and atom, I would allow it only because if you charge, it has to be in a straight line towards the enemy.
And you need line of sight.
And you need line of sight.
Well, actually, it doesn't have to be in a straight line. You can move around obstacles and terrain and stuff.
So you do need line of sight.
Yeah.
The initial default. Yeah, the default position is that you move shortest line distance, and the measurement needs to be at that 12 inches. If it's unsuccessful, you move as far as you can in a straight line, essentially towards them. If you've got the movement to work around objects, you can, but you're essentially granting defensive bonus at that point. So it's there's cost either way.
I think the only reason I'd allow that is because most of the time, if I'm charging in, quote unquote, a straight line, I'm not going to be able to then, dive to the left 2 inches to get into cover. And that's where TO would go, oh, no. But, if you want to cheese it, I think the British, I don't mind the idea of them cheesing this national characteristic, because if someone can pull it off, if someone's like, that's 36 inches, I need to make 12 inches. If you've set it up perfectly enough that unit moving straight in a straight line, 12 inches, I don't know. I kind of let you have it. It's like you've put in the work to make it happen.
And this is why Tyler's not a TO, because he cares about equality. It's like
I don't care about equality. I'm like, suck it and see, man. Rule of rules. And my go-to. I play too much D&D to be a TO. Really.
So then the next two national rules are variations on a theme. So toughest boots and rapid fire. So for every 3. You get 1 extra die. So toughest boots is for every 3 models in the fighting unit in close combat, you get 1 extra die. So if you've got 7 men, you roll 2 extra dice. That one, and the cool thing is this extra attack can be assumed to come from any of the men fighting. So you can assign it to your tough fighters. So if you've got a squad of 10 and only the sergeant has an SMG, you can get 13 attacks and 4 of them are tough fighters, which can be a nice way to boost that.
I didn't even think about that. So you can re-roll those if they're successful.
Correct.
Well, yeah. So this is specifically called out in the FAQ for those who. No. So for those who want clarification on how it works, go read the FAQ.
Okay.
Because that helps clear it up a little bit. Essentially, yes. If you had the intent of the rule is irrespective of the weapon loadout, you basically just do what the rule says. So for every 3 men fighting in combat, you get to roll an extra dice as an extra attack. That attack can be allocated to any of the men that are fighting. And the important part is that is an initial attack, not a rerolled attack or a subsequent attack or anything like that. And you can stack those up until the number of men eligible to take the shot. So if you had 3 SMG guys, those 3 SMG guys can take 3 extra attacks, no problems. There's your 10-man squad done. It's all fine. If you've got the 1 submachine gun, then you've got essentially all of those attacks that sit on the SMG guy, but he can only ever kill the 2 models or the repeats.
Oh, okay.
So you can still get the potential for the rerolls, and that's why I go read the FAQ. Because you can still stack all the tough fighter rerolls from the extra attacks on the 1 guy, but you only eligible to kill the equivalent models of what he would have been able to kill. So you can only ever kill if he was rolling 6 dice, for example.
Yeah. He's one guy with a tough fighter. You can only ever kill 2 models. So does that mean if you've got a 10-man squad, assuming no tough fighters, no SMGs, just 10 guys with rifles, and they rolled 13 dice, you could only kill 10 models?
No, because you're still entitled to any kills the tough fighter would have got.
I'm just saying, ignore the tough fighter, ignore all of it. You got 10 guys with rifles with toughest boots. They roll 13 attacks. Can you only kill 10 models?
No. So you can still kill the 13. So the first initial round, you can still kill as many as.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But for any re-rolls, you can only kill as many models that had tough fight.
Okay, I'm with you.
For any successful attacks that go through,
it's like a specific interaction with
the
fighter.
That's right. Or a re-roll, sure. Okay.
So in your example, the 10 guys generate 13 dice. You get a miracle 13 kills. You then pick up all those 13 dice that could have been allocated to the tough fighter model to roll, get potentially one extra kill.
Oh, okay.
It guarantees probably that extra one, but you can't stack that into another 13.
Okay, I'm with you. And then rapid fire is the shooting version with a rifle specifically. So if you've got 10 guys in the squad, one SMG, one LMG, you actually only get 2 extra shots. You don't get 3 because it's not 9 guys armed with rifles.
This one makes me a little bit sad because I would prefer to see it simply as if you are taking, and look, it's been around since version 1, so no biggie here, but I kind of think an evolution of this, similar to the German machine gun rules when they got buffed out to vehicles and stuff, the evolution of this is, for 1 out of every 2 or 3 men, irrespective of weapon type, if the majority of the units armed with rifles, you get the extra shot. That just makes the calculations really simple because a unit of 10 gets 3 extra shots irrespective.
I think this rule, I think is the most taken that I've seen and played against. This is the most taken rule, probably because it's more general than all the others.
There's no real conditions, other than the fact that it has to be riflemen and it has to be regulars or vets.
And this is my second favorite rule.
The last one is Vengeance, which has a hell of a paragraph.
Vengeance is my favorite rule.
So how does it work, Dan?
So Vengeance is the reason Vengeance is my favorite rule is because what wins games in bolt action?
Pins, mate.
Pins get wins.
Vengeance is a way to alleviate your suppression and pins on your army before they act, before they take their morale check and reduce an additional pin.
Boring.
It does
so strong,
Tyler.
Dan, how does it work?
It can be boring. I don't care. Anyway, so as long as the model is regular or veteran, so inexperienced are not going to be able to make use of this, and it has 1 or more pin markers, and you are within 12 inches of an enemy, you roll a dice. On a 1, 2, or 3, the test is failed. You proceed as you would normally for any other unit in the game. On a 4, 5, or 6, you automatically lose a pin marker. You then take your morale check. If you pass your morale check, you then lose an additional pin marker.
So if you have an enemy unit within 12 inches, before you take your auto test on a 4+, you shed a pin.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then you take your auto test.
And then proceed as normal.
Yep. Now, if you go from 1 pin to 0 pins, you still have to take your auto test, so you can actually still fail on that check.
Okay.
So you can't skate out of not taking an auto test if you were entitled to take one, but you can essentially negate. So normally you see this with veteran because 10s and auto shedding 2 pins is ridiculously powerful. So commandos, their paratroopers, their SAS, generally you will see Vengeance from some of the what I would consider high-end players. You will see that come out because there's a 50-50 chance that when they're in their engage range with their SMGs, they're shedding 2 pins every time.
Well, and shedding. We've talked about the 2d6 tables and the bell curves and stuff, but when it comes to 10 to 9, I think it's like a 75 or 80% chance you shed the pin, if not higher. So that's really good, especially when you can take. The British can take full SMG or full tough fighter squads. So even if you still wanted to get into close combat afterwards, it's still perfectly legitimate for you to take Vengeance instead of blood-curdling Charger up and at him. Because Vengeance, you'll get use as you get closer. Oh, actually, still going to be within 12. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
The difference, the reason that I like Vengeance more is generally your units that are veteran that are pushing up the field, unless they're nailed by a mortar or something like that, and they get a stack of pins put on them, they generally will only accumulate pins when they get to that 12 to 15 inch range.
That's true. And also with Vengeance, you're not locked into close combat.
That's right. That's right.
I like it.
You can sit there and hose into them.
Yeah. I don't think there's any other way to kind of generate this pre-pin removal before activation.
The closest one I can think of is Motivated Elite, but that kind of works the other way. Once you've taken your morale check on a 4+, you lose a second pin. It's worded differently, but it's basically, you lose D2 pins instead of 1, but it's the same as saying 4+, you lose 2 pins.
The benefit for this one is that you do it before the test. So you essentially on a 50-50, even if you're on 7 pins, you're going, all right, there's no way knowing I'm going to pass a check. You know that there's a 50-50, you can shed one irrespectively, and then you go, maybe I'll just take the down instead of the rally.
And that's a really big difference, because passing an order check on a 7 is about a 50% chance, but passing an order test on an 8 is like a 65% chance. So it's actually a big deal to get that 7 to 8 shift.
So just playing around with this idea of morale, wildly off topic, but we mentioned bonsai before. That counts as you rolling double ones. So does that mean with a bonsai you shed all pins?
No, I think you automatically pass. I don't think you roll double ones.
It just says
it's in the FAQ. It's in the FAQ. It's in the FAQ. Yeah. So for bonsai, if you are rolling using bonsai on their pins, bonsai will automatically count as the double one and the.
Do you get insane bravery? Is the question?
Yeah. Do you get insane?
It's in the FAQ, and I can't remember.
Okay. That's fine.
When we get to Armies of Japan, we'll figure it out then.
Yeah, but it's definitely covered in there for that reason.
It'll be its own thing. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So now we can get into the meat and potatoes of Armies of Great Britain. I had a quick flick through the headquarters section. There's nothing to write home about here. It all looks pretty standard.
Yeah. The only thing, so officers, they can take an experience, which Germany can't. So that's an option. The observers, this one's interesting. I know that we're not really going to get into campaign books, but just something to put out there that's unique about British is that they can take a forward naval observer in that slot.
And it's much more powerful.
Yeah,
way
naval
more
observer
powerful.
Every time I can take that.
It's also a lot more points now.
So Easy Army says a regular naval observer is 180. It might be more, not sure.
No, 180 has been updated. That's the correct costing.
Yeah. And you also have to pay for it for your free observer, an upgrade. Yeah, I think it's 80 or 90 points or something. You still have to pay to upgrade your free.
What you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing I will say about the HQs is they look mint.
Like the models.
British. Cool.
I love those. I love the mustache. The paint job on it's fantastic as well. That subtle stubble with the mustache. Yeah. Phenomenal.
A lot of the British command figures, I guess to be expected considering the heritage where it's coming from. Yeah, but a lot of the British models for their characters are very well done.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a dude playing the bagpipes. It's great. Army as a choice. Another dude with like a lecture stick. It's fantastic. I love it.
I actually really like the art in this book as well. With the he's just got like the teacup hanging off the back of his sack while he's making like a demo charge out of plywood. It's phenomenal. It's good stuff.
I'm here for it.
So back to naval. You pick your point like you do with your normal observer. D6 plus 9 inches. On a 1 to 4, units aren't directly hit, but they take D3 pins. On a 5, it's a near miss, which counts as a 2-inch template. Roll for damage reserves with plus 2 pen.
Right.
Near miss. What is this? It can cause superficial damage or flip the vehicle over.
The vehicle flipping is now a 6 because that was FAQ'd as well. The table's been FAQ'd because he was ridiculously powerful.
If you hit on a 6, it's a 4-inch template with penetration plus 6.
Oh my god!
If the unit survives, it takes D6 plus 2 pin markers.
Oh my god!
I love how they put that in. If the unit survives, like
again, just It reminds me a lot of destroyer attacks in 40k, where it's just like 2+ it dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it do be like that.
If you hit a bunker or a building, it's 3d6 plus 2 damage for the 6 on a building.
That's actually not so bad, ironically. So most heavy shells that come in do 3d6 on buildings. So the plus 2 is
the 3d6 plus 2 makes it that you level a building like about 65 to 70% of the time if you hit it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a naval gun.
Yeah, but it basically almost guarantees like a building being leveled if you hit it with a naval.
There's a story of naval guns engaging a tiger platoon as it's coming down into a village.
You guys talked about it.
We talked about
on
that.
a GNC.
Oh, look at that.
Dan actually listening to our episodes. We have been noticed. He has noticed us.
Not much, but yeah.
So I won't interject too much on special units in most of these reviews.
Quick thing about the naval. Sorry, Jacob.
He was trying to make a point there, Tyler.
Okay, sorry, you go. I'll shut up.
Naval observer.
It's going to be more interesting. Go, man.
Okay. Does any other army can they take naval observers, or are they
US? US in D-Day.
Yeah, in the D-Day sectors, they got them. Yeah.
Okay.
And as I understand it, as different campaign books roll out that cover some of those coastal actions, we may see it roll out to the other nations. It would be extremely, particularly prominent, for example, in the Pacific campaigns.
That makes sense.
So my shitty point was that I was going to say that this was unique to British, and I guess that's wrong. So...
Well, it was up until very recently.
Up until D-Day.
Yeah, that's the US D-Day sector, the most recent US campaign book.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, our only impressions here that I just want to make that we talked about this in USA as against taking air versus arty and all that kind of stuff. Maybe flip it in the reverse in this way. Seems like really should be benefiting the national rules.
Yeah,
that's
taking arty.
Seems like a very strong reason to actually choose Great Britain. Because of that artillery observer. So absolutely. I think all those points are valid. And that really is HQs.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they get some of the other campaign bits and pieces, which we'll cover later, like the chaplains and field ambulances and stuff. But largely, that's the stock standard piece for all of the nations. So then we actually move towards one of the most versatile set of infantry squads that exist in bolt action across all of their different forces. So the book covers a certain amount, but they've got a lot that have come out of the campaign books, which we'll leave to the side. But so we've got our standard breakup of early war, mid-war, late war for its unit comparisons. And this is representing how their equipment was altered and changed,
as well as
experience levels.
Yeah, inexperienced and veteran.
Yep. As they were going through, and that isn't obviously to say that certain units weren't experienced in combat, but this is just generic options that existed at certain parts on the front, and obviously, out to the fall of and the escape of Dunkirk, for example, and pulling everyone out of the bottom of France. And what was done there. So you got most of these will follow the 7, 10, 13 pattern for inexperienced, regular, and veteran. Noticeably, basically just a light machine gun.
And an SMG. Yeah. There some of the later ones you can pick that up a little bit with a couple SMGs. Some of them have a couple of LMGs, but really when it comes to just the infantry sections, your only real choice there from a non-narrative standpoint, from a points buy, is just how many LMGs do you want to fit in the squad is really what it comes down to.
Yep.
I think
typically all of these British forces tend to have 10-man cap for their infantry squads.
Standard sections. They've been running it for decades, in longer centuries even.
The Home Guard section.
Oh yeah.
This is what I want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Who wants to pick this one up?
I'm kind of incredulous. Not as incredulous as I was that the howitzer that you could downgrade to a HMG. I wasn't emotionally ready to read that. So it's an inexperienced infantry section. Comes with 5 guys. The best part is you can get 5 additional unarmed soldiers at 4 points each, and then you can give them rifles at 3 points each. Hilariously, you can also give them shotguns or pistols.
It's actually one of the only unit entries that British have access to shotguns.
And most importantly, you can also take a BAR if you don't take an LMG. Now, you don't get the fire and maneuver, but you can take a BAR.
That's fantastic.
So you can have... okay, so the first 5 guys have to have rifles. The second 5 guys, I would say, give 4 of them shotguns and give the other guy a BAR, and then give the NCO an SMG, and then you show them how the British Empire was built on cups of tea and spines alone.
I love that they've included the BAR here, because it is kind of very historically accurate of what's like.
Yeah, Lend-Lease, home section. Yeah.
Dunkirk's just happened, and America's like, guns.
I don't know if it was quite that simple.
Well, yeah, fucking.
I think it was. Dan, were you there?
I definitely was not there. I just don't think it was necessarily guns and they magically appeared in Great Britain.
Look, there's
a bit more involved getting across the Atlantic.
There's an ocean. There's
whatever.
There's submarines.
As we've talked about in G&T, submarines can get across there pretty easily going around. So it's not that much of an issue.
And then we get the paratroop section. Again, nothing really interesting here. They've got stubborn. They can get anti-tank grenades.
The model selection for paratroops is very interesting.
Yeah,
There's some great stuff out there.
5 SMGs in the squad, which is a nice little touch.
That's nice. Yeah.
But yeah, and some very cool models. I think there's a metal kit for the paratroopers, which are I really like all of the Warlord metal sculpts. They are top notch. And then there's you can use the commando box actually to make some pretty convincing paratroopers as well, because I think you get the Bergen packs. And then I think you get a plastic paratrooper box as well, which have the smocks.
They're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Pretty heavy into the paratroopers. I just want to quickly mention on the paratroopers while we're here, the entire squad can be mounted on bicycles. Or, more interesting, well bikes.
Oh, yes.
What's a well bike? I hear you ask. It's a folding motorbike. You fold that fucker in half, you jump out of the back of a plane with it, you flip it together, and off you go.
Oh, this sounds amazing.
If we don't get a picture in, definitely pause the episode, go look at well bikes, read the Wikipedia article, have a laugh, and come back.
If that's not good enough, there is actually a well bike at the RAAF museum in Bull Creek. You can actually go see it. Yeah. They honestly, they look like an electric scooter with a chair.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The first time that I saw it at Bull Creek, I was like, "Oh, it's like an early Vespa design," and it was. I just didn't realize how early. They're also probably the other key point: stubborn.
Yeah. That's the common paratrooper rule.
Yep.
So I thought it was a national characteristic for a paratrooper selection, but that's just because you take all paratroopers.
It's because you take all paras. Yeah.
I will happily walk back my previous statement. One, of course, that MMGs being useless. I think we covered that in the recapture. The other one is stubborn. Actually, a pretty good special rule. I know I didn't talk very highly of it, and I will happily admit that I was wrong. Having used it, and being absolutely blitzed by a mortar, and then going, yeah, whatever, I'm stubborn. I'm like, oh, this is actually really powerful. Yeah. For 1 point per man, this is pretty good.
It's like it probably feels closer to worth more than 1 point. I'm only going to pay 1 point.
Yeah. I'm big fan of that rule now. I didn't rate it before, but I think part of it's because I didn't actually use it, just because the paratroop selectors for the Americans are kind of antithesis to what you want to do with Americans. So I've just kind of avoided it. But look, I'll eat my own words. That was Stubborn's good. MMGs are good. You heard it here first. This has been a HMG podcast.
And we have proof that they're good, actually. And then we get to page... Go ahead, Tom.
You might be getting here. No, you go. Sorry, I'll shut up.
That's all right. I was going to say, then we get to page 25, which I like to lovingly the page of dirt or cheese or whatever flavor stuff you want. These units really awesome and good.
What is the cheese that's made in Great Britain? Because obviously, if you're talking about like the French army, you hit him with brie or camembert or something like that, right? And if you've got Italian cheese, you call it gorgonzola, right? Like
the British just buy it; they don't necessarily have to make it.
No, surely they make shit.
All right, what do we got, Tyler?
You got Applebee's Cheshire. You've got Beauvale. You've got Berkswell. You've got Cornish Yarg. You've got Keen's.
I like that one.
You've got Red Leicester, Stichelton, Stinking Bishop. Mike.
Stinking Bishop. All right, this is it. All right, we're at the Stinking Bishop page of Armies of Great Britain. So where Tyler was coming from with the USA was Chindits are Americans that you can buy for your British. They have fire maneuver.
Essentially, yeah.
Interestingly, they get fire maneuver regardless of weapon, which also means they're LNG.
They're better.
Ooh. Do you pay for it though? Because how many points per model are there?
Yeah. Well, what do we do?
Well, you kind of you don't
4 to 5.
15 points per man.
Yeah.
You're not really paying for it.
Yeah, you are.
You are. But what I mean is 2 points a man to get another nation's national rule across your whole squad.
Well, two national rules.
Yeah, plus the other one.
True. And they can't even use it on those weapons you've got. That feels like you haven't paid for it. You've stolen it and made it better.
This is definitely the Stinking Bishop of the English army.
So take Chindits, have your free Arty Observer, get your Vengeance.
That's bolt action and training wheels. No, this is Chindits with 2 artillery observers, and Vengeance is bolt action and training wheels. You ignore pins, you ignore fire to maneuver with all weapons. You ignore radios, and you get 2 artillery observers. That's it. That's the byline. This is bolt action on training wheels.
Next tournament.
Get BARs on it. That's the problem.
You don't need them. LMGs are better because you can fire and maneuver with the LMGs on Chindits. You ignore the neg 1 to hit.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's you obviously do pay the 2 points for it for the 2 different rules. Whether that 2 points is enough is up for debate.
No,
but
if I could pay 1 point for fire and maneuver, I would buy it on everything.
I feel like that's where, towards the end of World War II, that's where a lot of the disciplines were starting to move to. So it's like we'll just let every army buy it for 1 point. It's like, no, the US, we got what. Anyway. So continuing with our Stinking Bishop page, nothing on this page, by the way, can be anything less than veteran. Only the cool veterans.
Yeah.
We move into the commando section. Now, these are obviously... Now, it's obviously from the exploits that they actually did, but Hollywood has made the commandos a very notable and characteristic force to be done. So these guys are 70 points for 5. So they're still bang on the sort of 14-ish mark.
Yeah.
They can take up to another 5. The NCO and any other soldier may take a submachine gun. This is the first unit we've got that can be 100% submachine guns.
Yeah.
One soldier could, for some crazy reason, take a light machine gun. There's a reason you would take it in just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Light machine gun can then be upgraded to the Vickers K LMG. That's the one for 5 points. A Vickers K gun
gets an extra dice.
It's an extra dice, yeah. So you pay 5 points, and now you're stealing Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the artifacts they stole from their colonies, they're stealing special rules like it's no one's business.
Yeah,
nice.
It is the Stinking Bishop page. We did name it. We did warn everyone.
You actually get a special rule for free here because they've got behind enemy lines, and tough fighters, but you're only paying 1 point extra.
Yeah.
Well, and actually in the FAQ, if you do take the submachine guns, because you get tough fighter default, you actually only have to pay 2 points for the submachine guns. So you definitely don't pay for tough fighter.
Oh,
No. It's all legit, mate.
Mate, that new 30-man plastic commando box. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Ooh,
anyway,
yeah.
Now we get to the stinkiest of cheeses.
Well, so one thing that our listeners need to remember is that all of these units, whilst 100% good in their own right, still benefit from all the national rules. And when we get into some of the other Commonwealth rules in later episodes, they still benefit from those rules. And that's where it really starts getting stinking, Bishop.
This is really, really off topic, but I just Googled, because I'm like, we're about to get real stinky cheese here. I Googled the stinkiest cheese in the UK. Guess what it is?
Stinking Bishop?
Stinking Bishop.
All right, so we all have to try this cheese. Can we buy it at like Woolworths or something?
All right, so while you guys sort out
anything,
because we need to have a quick video with all of us giving our opinion.
I'm not touching that.
This is what we're doing for the next Army review. We're going to find the stinky cheese from that country and we'll divvy it up and we'll all have a slice, and that'll be the cold open, is us eating stinky cheese.
It'll be me vomiting in a bucket is what it'll be.
So I vote for Armies of Japan next because I don't think there's a cheese.
It'd be tofu flavored cheese.
It might be like bonito cheese or something.
Yeah,
we'll find out. Talk about cheese. I'm going to look for cheese.
Anyway, so back to this. So Gurkhas. Now Gurkhas are a name that you will hear thrown around the internet quite a lot in bolt action circles, and a lot of bad taste in the mouth and bitterness. And to a certain degree, that's fair. But let's go into the rules and find out why. So 70 points. Was that, Jacob?
Interesting. They've got the SMGs listed here as 2 points.
Yes, which is one of the reasons they FAQ'd to flip the other ones on the commandos.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are 13 points a model for veteran. They come at a maximum of 14 points a model for veteran. They come at a maximum of 5.
5 plus 5.
Plus 5. Can't count. 10. They may take the SMGs for 2 points each. One soldier can take a light machine gun, another becomes the loader. So again, fairly standard options. Automatically tough fighters, that's quite nice. Scary blighters, this is significantly better.
Oh, yeah.
So there's almost nothing so frightening as being charged by a bunch of Gurkhas wielding huge cuirass and the intent of inflicting bodily harm. I mean, that's a pretty scary sentence to write in a rule book. Any enemy unit that fights Gurkhas in close combat halves the total number of attacks they get rounding up. Now, the reason this is so particularly bad is irrespective of whether you've got blood-curdling charge with them or not, irrespective of whether you have up and at them or they're not, the way that combat works in bolt action is the attackers will strike first, and casualties don't get to strike back unless you're in defended positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means that if you manage to kill half the opponent's squad, they're only getting a quarter of their attacks back at you.
Filthy.
I like to think that it's just stinking Bishop, but sure.
But it's also like, that's one of those things where even if you only, like, let's say you roll terribly and you only kill 2 of them, and it was an even combat to start with, they still only get half the number of attacks back. So
and they still need to kill 2 veterans just to equal.
And they're all tough fighters.
They're all tough fighters. Yeah,
what national rule do you double up with these guys?
Blood-curdling charge. You don't die.
What about up and at 'em? Because then you just guaranteed to get into combat for the most part.
Blood-curdling charge. You suddenly have no shots at you, and half the close combat shots on veterans.
Yeah.
A squad of 5. A squad of 10. You're losing. Gotcha, help me out here with math. 5.
Well, you're.
Are you okay?
If you're
no, I asked for help.
I had no idea what you were trying to calculate.
5 up. What's a 5 up? What's the chance of
33%, man. Come on, it's 1/3.
No, fucking
5. Where does that come from?
So 33% chance of losing a dude, and so a 10 into 10.
It's not necessarily just losing a dude though, right? Because to win the combat, it's not about just killing one extra guy on a 33% chance. You need to kill more than what they killed, and you've got less attacks to do it in, and they're tough fighter. So you're actually they've essentially doubled their attack potential. Like, so if these 10 guys run at you, and even if you're a veteran, right? So you got 10 attacks, they all come in needing 5s. Let's say they get 5 of those. All right, that's a little bit lucky they get the 5.
Yeah.
Even if they get another 3 of those, you've only got 2 models left. There's 8 dead. There's 2 left that are striking back. That means you get 1 attack.
Yeah,
we're in the sort of territory of Polish Lancer attacks
that is actually a good question. Can you charge out of a transport? Can you get into close combat out of a transport?
Just gonna check my rulebook because it's right here.
All right. Yeah. So while Dan does that, we can move away from the stinking bishop.
Regardless, these guys are tough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Look, guys, if you want bolt action training wheels, sorry.
They're very, very cool. I like them.
Yeah. This right here is training wheels. Armies of Great Britain. Medium machine gun team, pretty standard. Boys anti-tank rifle team is just a standard anti-tank rifle team. Mm-hmm. What I did not know exists, and what I absolutely love, is the Blacker Bombard anti-tank team.
This is messy.
It's a direct fire 2-inch HE. It's a fixed weapon for 40 points. This is the recoilless rifle that I dream of. It's in the anti-tank slot. It's 2 inches. It's direct fire. What more could a man ask for?
Have you figured out that you're playing the wrong army yet, Gorchin?
This is hilarious because I can just take Chindits, a Blacker Bombard team, take US tanks, pick whatever national characters I want, and take 2 artillery observers, and it'll be cheaper and more efficient than my US.
So you see what I said about the British forces being more of that nice balanced overall piece. It's because they steal things from everybody. Their units are balanced, but they take everyone else's.
Why is this so
slept on?
Everyone sleeping on this?
I don't know, man.
Also, transports definitely you can't assault out of them. You can run out of them as the order, but you can't actually engage in an assault. I should have gone with my gut because I was right.
In the British Armies of Britain book, the in-print book, the HE for the Blacker Bombard was D6.
Yeah, that's V1. So it's 2 inches. That's what that translates.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's still a 2-inch template and it shoots 24 inches, right? Like it's my only challenge to this is that no, I haven't got one actually. It's really good.
And why would you take the Piat team? The Piat team is a 12-inch shape charge.
The reason you take the Piat team is because you're chasing the penetration value.
Ignore tanks. We've been through this on this podcast before. Ignore tanks.
Yeah, as much as I hate to side with Gorchin on the whole tank argument, I would absolutely avoid the tank, take the bombers, and deal with it later.
Piat team 40 points for a 12-inch shape charge. It is cheap, but do I take a +5 at 12 inches or do I take a 2-inch template at 24 for 40 points? I'm taking the template every time.
Yeah,
so it's 3 men on 2. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I mean, the 3 men in the squad as well. They suffer all the problems of being a fixed team weapon. So snipers take them out with range. They don't forward deploy or any of that stuff. The Piat team at least is 2-man team, so a small team. I do think it's interesting that for something which 24 inches and fixed still covers half the board, right? Like that's not bad. But I'm like for 40 points, and I'm like, and then I look at the flavor text and the context of what the unit was and how they do it. It's like made more than 22,000 for the war effort, but didn't make any sort of contribution to the war. And I'm like, then why has it got a profile like this?
Because it's bolt action. It's inverse. The things that were useful and made a big difference don't get mentioned, and the things that didn't make a big difference, or weren't ever actually made, like the prototype vehicles, are the best thing you can possibly get in bolt action. That's
every single time.
That's the rule. Moving on.
Moving right along.
Sniper team. standard.
Sniper.
The sniper rifle has a rifle and a pistol, which is good. Because I learned that the hard way, that not all snipers get pistols.
Yes.
Spotter doesn't have a rifle, he's got a pistol.
It's just he's too busy with his other hand passing ammunition or scoping details or binoculars. It doesn't matter. He's only got a pistol.
Flamethrower team, pretty standard. All of the mortars are standard as well. Their light mortar is 2-man team standard, actually. So the US light mortar is 3-man team standard.
Oh,
so the US one is probably the
exception,
the non-standard one.
Yeah. I was thinking about my other armies, and most of them light mortars are 2-man.
So medium and heavies, same thing there. Same template, same.
And as we've discussed, Gorchin, how many mortars do we take?
As many as you can possibly get, and then some. I'm just glad I didn't take heavy mortars.
Oh, you would. I mean,
to be honest, I actually didn't need them.
No, you didn't need any help.
I played a practice game against Tyler with my list.
Oh yeah, it hurt.
Starting the game off with a bazooka through the side of a panther is not a good way to start any game.
Did you end up taking the 2 inexperienced? Oh, you took the one.
No. I was still playing around with my list at that point, and I wasn't feeling ballsy enough. I should have just gone balls to the wall because he wiped me anyway. It would have been at least a little bit fun, having 2 panthers.
I was looking at a panther today at Tactics. I had the Kubel Blitz in my hand. I had a panther and a puma. I'm like, I don't know which one I want, so I took nothing. But...
You know what's really good at taking out vehicles? Light artillery. Specifically British light artillery, because their light howitzer gets a 25-pounder AT shell, which means for the standard cost of a light howitzer, it's a little bit more actually, 10 points more.
Not by much,
Yeah, 10 points more. You can get a spotter for your light howitzer, which is also not a guarantee. Not all nations get spotters for their light howitzers. And your single howitzer can also fire a Pen 4 AT shell, as well as your 2-inch. That's really good. I've played a lot dual platoon lists for British. One of the things I've looked at is stacking 25-pounders. Because they're just a super great buy. I mean, if you wanted similar kind of utility, you'd probably have to go to a medium howitzer. You're kind of like playing a bit of a middle ground there. And again, medium howitzer looks standard. No dual purpose, but of course this 3-inch template has a 3-inch pen. And then heavy howitzer, same again. Nothing unique about the British howitzer. Moving on to anti-tank guns, I think
the only thing that I would say just before we move on to the other anti-tank guns is none of the howitzers or artillery slots are allowed to be inexperienced.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Great Britain, essentially, because they trained the entirety of their corps, and the gunners were probably more experienced in some regards than others, they're actually not allowed to take them as inexperienced.
Yeah.
So you can't take mortars as inexperienced?
I think you can take the mortars.
Some of the mortars you can.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Some of the mortars you can. But definitely with the field artillery, that they basically go, it's everyone was quite well trained and knew what to do. Therefore, we don't have experience.
Yeah.
Drills, and sight signals on the back of porties.
I don't think that's I don't think that's much of a hindrance because I don't think anyone takes inexperienced artillery anyway. That seems like more of a waste.
Yeah.
It depends. There's a few different things that you could. So, I think one of the Soviet ones, you can take a medium artillery piece, has a gun shield, so you're essentially regular because you've got the gun shield that's protecting you. You still take the spotter, and then unless someone it's exactly the same. Like there's no, it doesn't. If you're ranging in, for example, no negative modifiers.
You're just stuck on that direct fire and an additional
stuck on that direct fire. Yeah. So if it depends on how you use it. But yeah, it's just interesting that they don't. Apparently, you start as an artilleryman, you are automatically regular because the training regime just puts you there.
So the anti-tank guns, the quickfire 2-pounder is pretty standard. The quickfire 6-pounder is pretty standard. Quickfire 17-pounder is there super heavy.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So it goes from medium to super heavy.
Oh yeah. There's no heavy.
And I've faced this before on the battlefield numerous times. Tom, one of the guys who I used to play with quite a bit, he would pretty much always bring a 17-pounder. And if I was really unlucky, he brought the 17-pounder that was also on a gun mount motor carriage at the same time.
So one of the things that I actually skipped over here when we got to the 25-pounder, because I just checked my notes and I got them the wrong way around. I've actually fired a quickfire 25-pounder.
Like IRL?
Honest to goodness, I've put my hand on the trigger and I've pulled on a 25-pounder.
That's it.
I was at the Artillery Museum in Portsmouth in UK, and they do a daily gun firing. And if you ask very nicely and provide them the appropriate amount of pounds, they will let you pull the trigger on the gun. So it was a newspaper charge. So the whole carriage didn't recoil and I didn't send a round down range because you're in a nice English countryside.
See you, suckers!
and it's funny because that was actually a surprise to me when he told me. I was like, so have you ranged this in? Like, do you know you're not going to hit anything? And he's like, it's a newspaper charge. And I'm like, no, of course. Like, of course it's a newspaper charge.
He's like, we're about to let a psychopath pull this trigger.
Yeah.
And the next question is like, what if we aimed it a little to the left?
Yeah. And he was taking me through the firing procedure and what I needed to do. And I was like, and then I looked at it and I was like, is this going to recoil? Because obviously it's a massive hunk of metal that's moving at super high velocity. I was like, where's the recoil guard? And he's like, oh, I took the recoil guard off. And I was like, I don't want to lose a limb. And he's like, no, it's not going to recoil. It's a newspaper charge. It doesn't actually have the equal and opposite reaction to recoil. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course it's not going to recoil.
A little disappointed.
But
it's the closest thing that an artillery piece can get to firing a blank and Gorge is like, is this going to kill me?
Yeah, I'm like, there's no risk of grievous bodily harm to me or somebody else.
This doesn't make sense. I'm firing an artillery piece.
So that was actually the funny thing about that whole thing. It was a complete total surprise for me because I went with my partner, and it was like it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I want to check out this museum, and it was a fair way out of the way. It was like a 3 or 4 hour train ride, and I was like, just flippantly, never bothered to check the website. I was like, I wonder if I like convince the tour guide, and I'm like a super cool dude, they'll let me fire the gun. And then when we got there, my partner just hands me the ticket. She's like, I paid for it. You know, you can just pay for it to pull the trigger. I was like, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Beautiful.
But
you imagine how many guys they get on the side where they go, yeah, right, you can fire it, but give me this one.
yeah.
Oh my god. They had to institutionalize that, otherwise it'd just be this dirty black market.
Yeah, exactly. So people who understand market economics way better than I do. And you get like a guided tour, and the staff there are phenomenal. The facilities are excellent. If you're ever there, I highly recommend going. One thing I will point out is that the pull on a 25-pounder is that the Germans get it. It's a big brass button that you hit, and same with the Americans. It's a big red button. Like the British is like it's a 15-degree throw on a lever. It's this tiny lever that's like the size of your thumb, and it just goes click, and that's it. and we drive by it without it, and he's like, grab that and pull, and I'm like, click. I was like, is that it? And he's like, yeah, that's not the part that goes boom. I was like, no, I mean, I know, but also I was expecting like
Look, after your previous questions, he's kind of doubting your mental competency.
Yeah. I'm like, where's the big rope?
He's like, maybe you shouldn't fire this.
Yeah. It's funny, my partner actually got a photo of like the moment I fired, and there's just me sitting on this carriage, just like.
We need to see that photo.
Oh dear.
Sorry to derail that, but I just wanted to drop that in there. I thought it was the 17-pounder, but it was a 25-pounder that I actually fired.
That's fantastic.
17, 145 men, super heavy. I like it.
It's a good bit of kit.
Yeah.
The
Oh yeah, it was facing it is frustrating because of course super heavy AT, so it's got the larger template when it hits you with AG explosions.
What is it, 2-inch?
Yeah. yucky. I think it's 3.
Oh, right, because it's super heavy. Yeah.
That's nice.
Disgusting.
You spoke a little too soon there, Jacob, in regards to not having a heavy anti-tank, because technically, 3.7-inch QF AA gun is a heavy anti-tank gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've got an AA gun.
I mean,
It's just a heavy anti-tank gun that shoots at the sky.
Okay, it pins itself every time you shoot at a ground target.
Yeah.
What is that?
But it's okay. It's okay. You can get one
I haven't seen
inexperienced.
this rule in anything ever.
The BM13 heavy Katyusha pins itself does D3 pins to itself every time it fires and takes a turn to reload. Yep. There's a couple of others. Yeah.
No,
I think
never mind.
the Calliope multi-launcher, I think, also pins the vehicle that you have to rally them off.
The Sherman Calliope.
Calliope, yeah.
I don't remember that it did when we looked through it, but oh well, never mind.
I might be thinking of something else. That's entirely possible.
Anti-aircraft gun, light automatic cannon. You may add second, third, or fourth lighter auto cannon to the mount.
The Polston cannon, the 20mm Polston cannon. You can have up to 4 sitting on the back of a Jeep, just like it's fantastic. I'm here for it.
Yeah, that is
cool.
It's the answer to the quad flak.
Yeah,
I do like though. It's like a development of the Ehrlichen 20mm, which is it's a really subtle way of saying that the Ehrlichen was a jamming piece of shit, and everybody knew it.
As opposed to, this is really good, but we need to make it better.
But it was the only 20mm like autocannon that was around at the time. So every aircraft,
everyone used it, right?
Yeah, everybody used the Ehrlichen. And everybody had their own variant and development of it to try to get it to jam less. But yeah, I think the only thing automatic about the Ehrlichen was it was automatic guarantee to jam. And then you've got the 40mm Buffers as a heavy automatic cannon, 60 points. Nice.
Not
Not bad. 4 men, heavy autocannon, has that beautiful flak profile to shoot down the the German air observers. I mean, all the other ones.
Blue on blue.
So now
worst thing to deal with in company heroes. Both.
Now we get into what I will categorically stand by is the ugliest tanks.
I actually think I'm in agreement with you there, Gorchin.
It is the stopping point for me for starting Britain all these years. I don't know what...
Sorry,
the Japanese tanks look better than these tanks, and they didn't really know how to use them.
I don't think so. I think the Japanese tanks look uglier than these ones.
No, because what I like about the Japanese tanks is that they don't even pretend that they're armored vehicles. Like they just know that they're not armored vehicles. Whereas the British are like, this is a tank. And I was like, it looks like a cardboard box with treads. And it's like, yeah, but it's a tank. It's like...
The Bob Semple? Did someone say Bob Semple?
I like that we've got the mustache officer is getting double use in this book.
Yeah. Hey, he's still painted nicely, right?
Why is he in focus and the tank is?
Because he tells them where to go. It's obvious.
Because the photographer knew. He's like, nobody wants to see this tank.
So they go into a little bit of the background of things.
Yeah.
All the other sort of pieces, how things were coming along. And they were really trying to develop, obviously, the doctrine of tanks as infantry support vehicles. They had a very, very different understanding of how they were going to fight initially compared to how the rest of the, certainly how Germany was going to use them. A couple of special call-outs. So the colon hedro cutters, which is essentially pay you some, I think it's,
10 points.
Yeah, 10 points. Throw a cutter on front of the tank and ram a hedgerow. It's essentially how that goes, and the hedgerow magically disappears. And then Little John adapters. So these were largely experimental. They did get used. What?
Little John?
Experimental bits and pieces are at the forefront of.
I'm just sorry, Little John. I'm picturing grills or.
So these ones, again, you pay your point premium to add them on, and what it does is bump up your penetration bonus by essentially 1 pip on the dice. So instead of being light anti-tank guns at +4, you get them at +5. So that's actually not too bad. That starts tank gun almost, minus, because it doesn't change the range or anything. It just changes the penetration. However, if you roll a 1 before modifiers when you're rolling hit an enemy vehicle, broken your adapter, and it's going to take you a turn to fix it. You also can't fire HE profile once you've got that adapter purchased and set up, and basically if you purchase, it's on by default. So you're confining that vehicle to an anti-tank roll or a very slow anti-infantry roll.
I like the idea of this purely theoretically. I've never played with it, but I think it could be really cool to chuck it on a smaller tank, just like
punch above its weight.
Yeah, just because you've got like a main threat, and then you've got this small little tank, and it's just like, and it just gets in the side and just boo.
Honestly, though, like a pen 4 to a pen 5 is not that much of a difference. If you're getting a side armor shot.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not from a front armor.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you can get to the side. So I versed a British player many moons ago now who took a Tetriarch tank with a Little John adapter on it, and so those things used to get parachuted out of the back of planes to support paratroopers.
Glider landed.
Sorry, yes.
Hilarious set of experiments that were very expensive and very messy.
And argue about whether they worked or not. Either way, they got tanks there, right?
I think the only time that they were actually used in that role was Operation Varsity. They deployed 6 of them, and like 3 of them broke down immediately. One of the Little John adapters failed, and its engine busted at the same time, so it was just a stationary pillbox. And I think the other 2 didn't score a single kill. That was when they realized that because tanks are heavier than gliders, when the glider stops, the tank doesn't.
Momentum. Inertia. Not good.
So there was
wonderful words. I'm sure they mean something.
Yeah, there was an unfortunate case where
as if I could design something anywhere near what they did. But
for those who don't know, the cockpit's at the front of a glider, and the open cargo space is immediately behind the cockpit. And of course, most of the time a glider is majoritively wood. There's some metal, but also tanks are really heavy. So when the glider stopped, the tank didn't, and it just kind of came through the pilots in testing. So that was a really painful thing to learn the hard way. It literally just tore itself free from its mount and burst through the front of a glider. Which is, look, it's a way to make an entrance. You just don't really want to do that in your training exercise.
Yeah, no.
Action scene in Hollywood, perfect. Looks beautiful.
Moving into the tanks themselves, like the Vickers. So the first one, the light tank, the Vickers light tank Mark 6B, I think is how you're supposed to say it, or VIB.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
But this thing, and I know it's backwards but this looks like it's out of 40k. This thing looks like a cyberpunk invention. It's a steampunk invention. It's not. Like, I can't believe this was ever used in real life.
I think one of the things that I do note about the British is that they have a really nice selection of bolt-action applicable light tanks. You can really find, you've got the Mark II to the Mark India pattern. I'm not sure what number that is. 60 points, +7 only. Turret-mounted HMG and coaxial MMG. Not bad. It's 8 shots right there. For only 60 points. There's
60 points if you take it inexperienced, right? Or is that?
75 points regular. Yeah. And then you've got there's Mark 6C, which is the one that you're talking about, light automatic cannon, coaxial MMG. Then you've got the Vickers 6-ton light tank, which is disgusting. 2 turrets.
Awesome.
It's not quite stinking bishop. It's maybe stinking knight, maybe stinking pawn.
Yeah.
It's
stinking.
That's PAWN. 2 turrets arranged with 1 MMG covering the front, rear, and left arcs, 1 MG covering the front, right, rear arcs.
Typical of the time of the Soviet creations in that space.
You can replace both turrets with a single 47mm light anti-tank gun coaxial MG, so you can upgrade basically what is an armored car at 70 points to an armored car with a light AT for 115 points. So nothing too crazy. Tetrarch tanks is 105 points with a light anti-tank on coaxial MMG. Can take the Little John adapter for 15 points, which is not bad.
Yep.
That's not bad.
I would probably take the 3-inch light howitzer version though. At 105 points, light howitzer, coaxial MMG.
Roof and fire, light howitzers.
Armored. It's only a 7, but that's not bad. For that many points.
At 100 points.
Yeah. It's a good like British alternative to, say, for example, something like a Chaffee. Not quite the same role, but it's similar mission set.
The one thing to note about that tank as well, if you look across, it's tiny. Its profile.
Yeah. Very small. Very small.
It's interesting that a lot of these tanks that we're starting with have the armored car profile. That doesn't seem to be.
Yeah.
That's
all light tanks.
I was going to say
super light tanks.
Yeah, like the only reason they're not called armored cars is because they have tracks.
Yeah.
Then again, moving into the cruiser tanks, which is, I guess, the proper light tanks. Oh, spoke too soon. So there's the theme here is that there's a lot of variants, and you can swap a lot of anti-tank guns for light howitzers. Particularly these early variants have a lot of MMGs.
Because they were focusing on that infantry support.
And so if you're somebody who likes light tanks with howitzers or lots of MMGs, these cruiser tank variants are definitely the way to go. When does the first flamethrower start appearing? I thought some of the cruisers had them.
Just talking about the cruiser tank quickly, like this is pretty good for I reckon.
The cruiser's great.
Armored car with a 2-pounder light tank, which you can change into a howitzer with a coaxial MMG and then 2 more MMGs.
Yeah, is that the cruiser tank Mark II with the CS?
A9 cruiser tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I think that's pretty cheesy. Not quite stinking bishop, maybe, but
well, I was going to say the next one down, the A10's probably a little bit better because you can swap the anti-tank on for a light howitzer, and you can get 3 or 4 MMGs on it as well.
True.
Good bit of kit.
The A10 is a nice.
Yeah.
From a bolt action point of view, the A10 is a nice little tank.
Yeah.
In terms of flamethrowers,
125 points as well.
Yeah. How much were your machine guns, Scorcher?
Too many. Dan. You could almost get 2 of those for the 3 MMG teams that I got.
And I would too. I would.
I would. I would take an A10 cruiser and a 6-ton light tank and have points left over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely strongly considering picking up my British Army out of storage and paying them up.
Yeah.
It only took 1 episode.
Oh man,
I'm
glad I'm not here for the US because I already have a full painted US Army. The last thing I need is another excuse to dip into that. Yeah, exactly. I don't need another one. I have so many armies already. But if I'd done the US, I would have been like, ooh.
So then, as we move into the cruisers from the A13s to the Mark 5s and the Mark 6s, you're starting to get more of a normal like light tank profile. Light anti-tank gun, coaxial MG. You can swap it out for a howitzer. That's a pretty common thing that you seem to be able to. They're all coming in at like 120 to 150 points, depending on armor value and veterancy and stuff. These are really cheap.
They're actually good, and you know, there are 7 different cruiser tank variants, I think, in the book. Just after the visit. So no, I think it's more than that. So A9. Which personally I like that one. A10, 13, 13-2, Mark 5, 7, 8, 9. 9 cruiser variants, which was all just them doing the development of the tank and its armaments or its design, changing its different suspension. And again, British book, British company, possibly slight bias on some of the or access to records, that could be the other thing. The Soviet book, when we get to that one, that actually has a lot of this developmental tank stuff in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, this has my favorite line. The Covenanter is one of the most successful tanks never to be used in action.
Yeah, so there's And then you've got the Crusaders, the Cromwell.
Yeah.
Cromwell is when you start hitting that normal 200 point medium tank with medium AT gun with some howitzer upgrades. Valentine,
it's the first tank that looks normal.
yeah, and still doesn't look good. Valentines are slow medium tanks. Again, that's the only thing that kind of sets them apart. When you get to the Churchills, that's when you really start getting to go. You basically get a shopping list. There are so many different variants and upgrades. You can get the heavy tank that you want, including you can replace the medium with a light anti-tank gun or a forward-facing howitzer or 3-inch howitzer, 95mm howitzer, 75mm anti-tank gun. They're slow, which is painful, but it does also mean they're cheaper. It's just that if you need a moving bunker, grab a Churchill for sure.
Yeah.
For a heavy tank that's well priced, the base. But obviously the base is a medium.
And like even if you wanted to, like, because some of these upgrades as well, as we start to get into their shopping lists, they have the negative costs if you want to downgrade the armor but still get the high. Like, so you go, I want something that's going to be a pillbox that's going to be hard to kill. I don't really care about its offensive capability. I just don't want it to die. Maybe you're playing a lot of missions that involve kill teams. Cool. I'll take the heavy tank at the damage plus 10, but I'll strip the gun back to the light 2-pounder. Take 20 points off the price, and now I've really got something quite efficient.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Some of the what absolutely needs to be mentioned is the Churchill AVRE, which is comes with a petard mortar, which has cannot fire at long range. So it's a turret-mounted heavy howitzer, can't fire at long range.
Doesn't matter. It's amazing. Everything in that half range is dead.
So 36 inches for half range?
36, yeah.
Not a problem.
Can't fire over half, and so has all the limitations with that, but can still fire smoke, and can still fire smoke infinite because smoke fires infinite. It's quite like, but people are like, but it doesn't matter because it's smoke.
I think Dan is the only person who uses smoke in bolt action.
Don't fire smoke with this thing. Use the petard border.
We've done an episode with Dan talking about like smoke and stuff, right?
Yeah, but we need to play it, you know?
Yeah. Calm down.
So the flamer tank, man.
Yeah, flamer heavy tank. 485 points.
Super heavy tank.
No.
Super heavy flamer.
It does have jettison.
40k shit.
Take the veteran.
It does have the jettison fuel trailer though, which is nice. Which means you don't get the extra damage for internal fuel tanks.
Sure, but you also don't have an army taking this thing.
You don't need an army. You have an anti-tank gun and a flamethrower.
I'll just point out damage value 11.
Yeah,
I can see
super
that.
Heavy super heavy tank.
Massive.
Yeah.
Humongous.
Yeah. Ugly as sin.
Big chungus. This is the big chungus of tanks.
Absolutely the big chungus.
I want to get one just so it's like a centerpiece for the army. Not for points, not for its value. Just I want a cool looking centerpiece, and this thing is huge.
That tells you everything you need to know.
It loves Panthers.
Tells you everything you need to know about this selection. That the people who actually want it don't want to include it in their army. They just want to look at it. That tells you everything you need to know. Then we get to the US tanks in British service. I don't think anything is actually different here in terms of points and stuff like that.
It's all the same.
It should all be the same.
So just, if you want to see us go through them in detail, check out
USA.
Yeah. The one thing I will point out is that you get the Firefly variant, which the Americans don't have access to. It is a 17-pounder in Sherman, which is nice. 295 points. Super heavy anti-tank on Sherman. Horrifying.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Doesn't have gyro stabilize though.
No, because that ironically is the one rule weren't allowed.
That's an American only rule?
Yep.
Yeah. And actually, fair point, I actually don't think the Lend-Lease vehicles got gyros. And they certainly wouldn't have had it in the Fireflies anyway, because they had to finagle the turret. It's so cacophonous firing a 17-pounder inside a Sherman that it's actually very common for the loader to get out and stand like 30 meters away and spot the spot impact, because when you fire it, you actually can't see from the muzzle blast where it landed. You're just sitting in a cloud of dust and smoke that you have no idea if you actually impacted your target.
Fantastic.
So imagine being the poor bastard who has to get out and stand next to the giant dust cloud that just went off with his set of binoculars. Interestingly and frustratingly,
TDs.
Actually, just before we get to the TDs,
Oh yeah,
the British get the M22 Locust, and the Americans don't. Which is the Locust is the American version of the Tetrarch. Well, that's not fair. They were designed separately, but to fill the same mission role. And it can be recce.
It gets wrecky.
Yeah.
Yep.
And its anti-tank gun actually works.
A half a dozen were used in Operation Varsity.
Oh, sorry, it was the Locusts I was thinking of, not the Tetrarchs. Horribly unreliable, just as well. They also get the Chaffee, best tank in the game.
Yes. Without a doubt.
And then, tank destroyers. The tank destroyer here seems to start the same way as the US one does, with just
their guns.
Trucks
40s.
with anti-tank guns.
Yeah. Desperation breeds invention.
Yeah. Then we get what's the Deacon? Oh, it's just it's just a truck with an anti-tank gun.
Truck with a heavy. Yeah. So you've essentially got your light anti-tank, your medium forward-facing anti-tank on open platform, and then you've got your heavy, which all. I mean, look, the one thing about them is they're cheaper.
Yeah.
So
the Deacon's an armored carrier, which is good. It is open top, but it's an armored carrier.
Yeah.
It's got 360 line of sight to 360 arc of fire. That's pretty handy.
The next one to jump.
I have versed an archer before.
Yeah.
They are very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look it.
Archers are cool.
300 point 17 pounder in a medium tank. Open top as well.
Funny
it has to shoot from the rear.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. So you move it in reverse.
Yeah.
With the gun pointing backwards.
Yeah.
Just how it's designed that it can't have the turret pointing the other way.
Well, because if it had a slow special rule, then the reverse would be even worse. Because your reverse is half your movement.
Yeah, fair enough. The what I like here is that it says, and one crew carried LMG. So it's just some guy sitting there.
Yeah, he's holding on to his Bren. It was. I'm fairly sure it would actually just sit mounted to the wall until it was needed, and then like, okay, now we need that. Is it cleaned? Has it got its ammo? Has it got its? Yeah, of course. Together, it's like they're here already. Right, I'll put it back.
I still like the idea that like they just have. They're like, yeah, you guys are probably gonna maybe get stuck at some point. Can't really help you, but here's a gun. That might help.
As you're driving away, use the light machine gun.
As you're driving away, you might as well use the tank gun that's stuck on the back of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They saw a lot of action in the Western Desert where they would actually, they'd mark out their ranges of where they needed things to sit at and have predetermined spots. And it was all about ambush. And it was, wait, someone's coming through, take the shot. Okay, driver, go.
Well, I mean, that's exactly how you use tank destroyers. That's exactly
it should be.
I think we've talked about that before.
The next
I don't think all our bolt action players use them like that, but you should.
No.
The next two is the American M3 half tracks with two different anti-tank guns. Same thing there. You either get they're just medium anti-tank guns for both of them.
Yep.
One of them has
slightly better HE.
Oh yeah, it's the 2-inch HE if you take the 75mm car. Then you've got the M10 tank destroyer. Same thing there again.
Yeah.
The Wolverine.
Yeah, nobody knows where that came from actually. A lot of people think that's like a asynchronous thing. Somebody after World War II called him a Wolverine, and then everybody just like, oh, cool, they're called a Wolverine now. The cool thing is you can get a 17-pounder version of the Achilles, which is nice.
Well, the Achilles is a 17-pounder, isn't it?
Sorry, you can get a 17-pounder version of the M10. Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Again,
a lot of 17-pounders.
Anti-tank. Yeah, a lot of 17-pounders.
It's a pretty good gun, not gonna lie.
If you have the points in tank war for dual platoon stuff, the British actually bring the hurt almost as bad as the Germans.
It's a lot of glass cannon type stuff.
Yeah, but the cannon's big.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Can't argue with the super heavy. It kind of wins that.
Yeah.
Then we get the self-propelled artillery. The machine gun carrier is the 70-point open-topped armored carrier with an MMG. This is the spam of death if you can take an armored platoon. These are really common transports, these little universal carriers of the Bren.
Carrier.
They can only fit 6 if you take them in a transport slot, if I remember correctly.
So I just wanna backtrack 2 seconds, please, because this is near and dear to my heart. So a Panther, right? Here we are. Panther costs 355 points as a regular.
Yep.
Frickin' 17-pounder Achilles with the super heavy. It has damage value 1 less, and it is 255 points.
Except it's also open top, and it has damage value 2 less on the front armor because the Panther has a special rule.
Does it?
Well, because
Still gonna kill a Panther.
Yeah. The DV, 9+.
I was gonna say, whoever shoots first, the other person's automatically worried.
You can also pin
so many point differentials.
You can pin an Achilles with a 35-point LMG. You're not pinning MMG.
You can pin an Achilles. You can pin an Achilles with a pistol.
Yeah.
Hey, where's that sniper from earlier?
No, get the home section with the shotguns.
Oh yes.
Screw it. Get the unarmed guys. Assault it with blood-curdling charge. Here we go.
Does he score any damage? It's open top. It's instantly dead. That's why it's 285 points.
Yeah. All right. I'll back off.
Those home guard can take anti-tank grenades.
Of course they can.
That's one thing we've never mentioned on any of our reviews. You can all take it.
It's pretty useless.
They're not great.
Mortar carrier, same thing again. It's a Bren with a 3-inch medium mortar. 80 points. The Bishop 25-pounder is the light howitzer medium tank. Ooh, this is kind of nice. 150 points. Close top. It is slow though. Medium tank. Not a bad bit of kit.
But it's actually it's not horrible. I would like it, considering it has the 25-pounder in it. I would like to see the anti-tank dual purpose cartridge. But then again, 150 points, move and fire light howitzer.
Medium.
Yeah.
With the Bren carriers, are we going to talk a little bit about the stinking bishop that is Bren carriers?
Transports?
Or
that comes from the transport selection.
I thought it was in the. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
It essentially is exactly the same sort of profile, but the transport's actually a little bit worse.
Okay, cool.
We'll get to that.
M7 Priest is the case-mounted medium howitzer with the HMG open-topped from British. This Sexton is the British version of the Priest, which is a light howitzer instead, and an LMG.
Sexton.
Yes,
the Sexton is. I've got a fondness for that one from an old Commando comic that I read when I was younger, and it was a Sexton platoon that got themselves into quite a bit of trouble and spent the rest of the comic trying to run away. Had to keep engaging.
Then we get to the anti-aircraft vehicles. It's basically the AA weapons from before with the same rules that can be mounted on trucks. And then you've got anti-aircraft tanks, which is nice.
Interesting.
So one of them...
Crusader with a heavy auto, 110.
You can replace it with 2 paired 20 mils.
Yeah.
In an enclosed turret.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a nasty bit of kit. What is that? 135 points for two paired light auto cannons? Yeah, nasty.
On an 8+ hull.
That's closed top. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Staghound AA is 2 turret mounted HMGs. Yeah, big miss on that one. Just leave that one where it is.
Well, no. So you need 5s to hit, right? To drive the plane off. You only need 3 of them. That's going to put 6 shots in the air.
Sorry, it's got an MMG as well.
Have I misread it?
Don't spend 130 points on an open-topped armored car with 2 HMGs and an MOG. Don't do it.
It's got recce.
Mate, we
Actually, I'm
just
not
talked
damned.
about the Crusader that was closed up with 2 light autos.
Take the Crusader. Take the Crusader.
Dan, I'm done trying to defend it.
Not everything is good in bolt action, Dan, including smoke.
Theme.
Now we get to armored car shopping.
We've got just as
speaking
many
of
here,
Rolls
right?
Royce,
There's a few.
And I think one thing that we're going to see again here is that this is very much a veritable shopping list. You're going to find recce, anti-tank rifles, LMGs, HMGs, MMGs, recce, open-topped, in all sorts of combinations. My personal favorite is the Lanchester. 80 points, 2 MMGs, armored 7, recce, close top. Cheapest chips.
Yeah, I'll play with that.
One of the other ones that I like is a Humber, because you get the autocannon and a coaxial MMG for 95 points.
My favorite is its sister, the Humberette. Just because of the name, I don't actually like that vehicle.
It's got an anti-tank rifle. Ooh,
yeah,
spicy. Although a lot of these kind of MGs and anti-tank rifle ones, they kind of get lost in the Bren spam.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, there's actually a whole stack of different types of carrier armed or little armored car things.
It might just be worth noting the Stag Hound, I think, is a heavy armored car, which I think is like an 8+. I'm expecting. There it is.
8+. Yep.
Yeah, it's
How much is that again?
145 points.
Regular.
Yeah.
And it
2
comes with
MMGs.
the two MMGs, recce, and the light anti-tank gun. Like that, it's not a bad choice at all.
Yeah, that's pretty
For
good.
an armored car slot.
For an armored car, because you can double that
the-
up, obviously, with any of the other tank slots then. So you essentially get 2. You could take 2 light tanks quite easily.
I like that.
The one thing I feel that, and I think it's because they didn't do any of them. The one thing I feel that they've missed here.
Bob Simple.
No. Actually, I think it's covered in the FAQ for additional units. It's in the book. There's a Bren carrier version called the Wasp.
What's they got? A flamethrower?
It's a flamethrower. Yeah,
So
and it's a flamethrower with its own special rule damage. And it does an obscene amount of hits.
Okay, I'm
We'll
glad.
get to that later.
I'm glad that's not in this book. Some things worth noting is the LRDG arm trucks, which are soft skins and 15 MMGs or autocannons or light anti-tank guns. It's a lot of firepower on these LRDG trucks.
Really, really cheap too.
Yeah, 45 points and you get 2 MMGs to start with. Yeah, that's disgusting. You can add a third MMG for 5 points.
Yeah, for the Pintle. And then you can
be doing that.
Then if you want to
auto.
also upgrade them all to you can upgrade the rear facing MMG to a 20mm autocannon or a 37mm anti-tank gun.
Filthy.
No, it's awesome. I mean, it depends on like LRDG and what they were used for.
Yeah.
Corrected. It was a Swiss Army knife style thing. It was like, you're going to do XYZ, right? We're taking this weapon off. We're putting this one on.
Yeah.
So that part is quite true to what they do.
I'm a fan, talking of the MMG spam that Gorchin bought before, the SAS Jeep.
Yeah.
One forward-facing AHMG, one forward-facing LMG, 2 rear-facing LMGs on a Jeep. The thing I like here is that you can replace the LMGs with the Vickers K guns we mentioned earlier, so they count as MMGs.
Yep.
So you're getting 3 MMGs and an HMG for 60 points.
With recce.
Oh, sorry. Adding the...
75. Yeah.
75 points, yeah. But even so, 75 points, great.
Yeah.
But the real cheese that we're all here for is the recce carrier or the Bren carrier. So the recce carrier is a 7 armored car that comes with a hull-mounted LMG forward-facing. You can add an extra LMG for 10 points, or you can replace the first LMG with an anti-tank rifle. Open-topped recce. One thing we forgot to mention about the universal carrier is turn on the spot. they can execute a full speed run rate reverse, finishing the move in the direction of travel. So
that is very nice.
Makes them quite mobile.
And then the great thing about that profile is that the Recce carrier and the Bren carrier for transport is identical, except you trade Recce for carrying 5 men. Same weapon options. Same literally. Points as well. So that means if you wanted to play a lot of small elite units of 5 men or smaller, you can just get them, each one of them loaded up into a Bren carrier, and they can bring 2 LMGs in each Bren carrier. Or you can bring an anti-tank rifle and an LMG in each Bren carrier.
Yeah, and it often means that that type of list is very similar to the it's actually slightly more powerful than the double LMG German, sort of jump out and drop and take the shots, because you're actually you're arguably putting 4 machine guns on the same target off 2 dice, which is pretty hard to pick that. Or you can spread those shots over 3 different units and actually get pin suppression out of them, which is where they really shine.
So after the Recce carrier, Bren carriers, standard assortment of trucks, and jeeps and half tracks.
But we
got kangaroos.
The kangaroos.
The kangaroos are cool. So for those that don't know,
not real kangaroos, but real kangaroos.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
So
can you take bikes with Anzacs, man?
Yeah. Australian cavalry.
Because if you can, we have the 3D print kangaroo.
You can convert your army to do whatever you want as long as it fits the rules. This is something we don't necessarily do actually a lot, but you can actually construct something to represent something in a theme, and as long as you do that well, it's your hobby, you can do what you want.
Yeah, I'm going to take commandos with well bikes, but the well bikes are going to be kangaroos.
I'm going to start using artillery observers and calling them bears.
Yeah, there you go.
So what a kangaroo is, it's an armored vehicle that has been detoothed and used as an armored personnel carrier. So the priest kangaroo is the priest, the howitzer carrier from before. They've gutted most of the weapons, and they're just used an armored personnel carrier. The ram kangaroo is a Sherman tank that's been gutted and uses an armored personnel carrier.
The turret's basically just taken off and just gone, there you go, you'll be right.
Basket, weapon sponsons, all the other sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, good.
They can carry 11 men, which is pretty cozy in a Sherman.
Yeah. They're clearly top right.
Yeah, 127 points for an armor value 9 11-man transport.
Yeah. If you want to get something safely across the board, that's the way to do it.
Still open topped. Nothing a pistol can't stop.
Yeah, sure.
I know we took all the weaponry away, but you can give the MMG back if you want. We could have given that to you in the 127 points, but we chose to make you pay for it anyway.
Tractors.
Typically, you're getting you'd have to get a truck to get that many men.
Yeah.
So you almost always have to have a 6 soft skin to do anything that volume of troops.
It's a good point. Or you have to get a half track, which is still 70 or 80 points anyway, and it's only armor value 7.
Speaking of volume of troops, going into the amphibious vehicle.
Yeah, the Buffalo.
4 Buffalo, up to 24 men. Thank you.
Yeah, that was me losing my shit in the Armies of USA. I was just like, don't put your entire platoon in a Buffalo.
2 pintle-mounted MMGs too.
You can upgrade them to a Polston.
Allow me to.
I've done it.
Oh, you can too. You can upgrade.
Always a good idea.
Oh no, you add a Polston. You don't replace it. Oh god.
Yeah, you add one. Yeah, it doesn't.
That's 158 points. That's
the
disgusting.
2 MMGs and
this is in the transport slot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
And we
No. So you got to remember, of course, what the vehicle was designed for. So it was designed as a transport.
You take 7 of these.
Jacob. That was a good use of about 1,000.
Exactly.
It's a battalion taxi service. 7 buffaloes.
I think the the purpose was for these to essentially transport almost a full platoon of men amphibious,ly and do it as quickly as possible, and you got shot at because they weren't fast. They're great for scenarios. They're horrible in they're horrible in for a regular catch-up bulk game. They're not point efficient.
Another to round us out, the amphibious truck, terrible. Don't buy it. However, it's a very underappreciated part of history is the DUKW, or the Terrapin amphibious truck. This is it's basically like an amphibious truck, and it was used to carry supplies and troops and stuff across rivers, and I think they played a big part in D-Day, particularly in the flooded causeway and that sort of thing. So, underappreciated part of history, 44 points to carry 12 men, don't do it. It's a terrible idea, it's not worth it being amphibious. But, yeah, the DUKW is an underappreciated piece of kit, just like the Buffalo is as well. So, support your local friendly game stores, get a Buffalo.
Once again, just like the flamethrower super heavy tank, do it just to look at. You'll probably never use it, but it'll look nice in your shelf.
So what are our takeaways here? Taking artillery observers, chindits, kangaroos, Brens, and buffaloes, right? And some weird armored car / tank that
make sure you get the LVTs in there too.
My takeaway is a Chaffee, a Staghound, because they're basically the same vehicle, 2 artillery observers, a bunch of chindits, the Blacker Bombard in my anti-tank slot, a medium mortar and a light howitzer, because now I'm dishing out like 5 2-inch templates.
Yeah.
and what's your national rule around that all up?
Well, I've got fire and maneuver, so I don't need that one, or I don't need something to cover that one. Vengeance, easy, vengeance.
Yeah.
And then what?
You got the veterans.
Am I even playing bolt action?
I mean,
am I even playing bolt action at this point?
Yeah. I think
that you just get some unarmed home guard.
Or if you need an objective holder. I think the one of the big takeaways for me is typically this book, as we opened up, has more variety generally across your different patterns of troops, vehicles, and everything like that than what some of the others do. And that's probably due to access of information, a little bit of bias, possibly. They would have been relatively comfortable with the content. It actually doesn't matter because 90% of these choices are not optimal.
Yeah.
So having all the history stuff there, it's brilliant. It's fantastic. It offers you lots of choice as a gamer to do different things and to offer theme within your, but they're not all super go get 'em effective things.
Yeah, the problem is the 10% that is too good.
But the thing is, I don't necessarily agree that it's too good.
Yeah.
That's why I think that it's a balance force. So generally, you can do some very, very nasty stuff list wise with them, but you don't have to. There's a lot of stuff that's in there that will actually just keep it calm. So if you're taking a really effective point efficient tank, fantastic. If you're not matching that with commandos, Gurkhas, or Chindits, for example, your opponent probably won't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
If you start considering what Gorgian was saying, if you start doing all of the stinky bishop cheese, it can certainly start getting a bit nasty. And when we get into the Commonwealth rules and selectors, that's when it can really start getting a bit nasty. And that's where I start going back to go, no, this isn't so okay anymore.
Yeah. Well, I reckon we'll do a separate one on.
Oh, definitely separate. Yeah, definitely separate. We haven't covered theatre selectors for any of the others. So
let us know.
I really think
selector. Come on, Tyler. Which one?
I think we should do Australia. New Guinea, because that has some really cool choices. Really, some really cool.
It's got some very cool thematic and scenario stuff as well.
That's what I mean. Like, there's like the Battle for Matilda Bay is really cool. I think I just really like that book. It's also the first book I ever got, so maybe a little bit of bias on my part. But with the British rounding it all up, I think these guys are severely underrated.
Yeah, they're slept on for sure.
Yeah. There not enough people playing this crazy combo of stuff, and also Stinking Bishop is an artisanal cheese. So if you guys want to, if Stinking Bishop wants to support the show, more than happy to, wear some shirts, eat that cheese, whatever. Get in contact with us if you happen to be listeners of the show.
I think Tyler's ready to round us out and send us on our way home.
Oh, I am. It's too late. It's too late in the night. It's been too long. I've been moving boxes all day. So, but yeah, that's me. Anyone else?
The boys are back. This was great.
This was HMG doing the Armies of Great Britain review. If you want us to do something else next, let us know. We're keen on Australia and New Guinea, and we might have some bonus special content for that as well. Australian paratroopers.
Yes.
Finally.
Finally.
So if you guys want to hear about that, absolutely let us know. You can check us out in all of the places where you find your podcasts. We are on there. You can find us on YouTube as Western Tabletop. You can find us on Facebook as Western Tabletop and HMG and all of the other good places. Call to actions this time around. Blacker Bombards, just take them in your anti-tank slot. Don't take Pearts.
Support your FLGS, picking up some tanks that you'll never use on the field, but that you've got on your shelf.
Absolutely.
And also keep an eye out for G&T Episode 2, which is currently ready. We're just waiting for when we want to put it out. But keep an eye out for that.
Should be out before this episode.
There you go. You've already seen it.
Thanks, everyone. I've been your host, Gorchin.
I've been Tyler.
Jacob, thanks for catching us.
I'm Dan.
See you next time, guys.